and start class in a few minutes. So everybody will make
Yo,
sure
my
you
bad,
guys ping
Weezy.
up.
My bad, Weezy. My bad, Weezy. I sent you to the. My bad. I'm trying to. Man, people. My bad. I'm trying to get people up there. My fault. I sent it to the audience by accident. My fault, yo. Hey, yo. Hey, yo.
This one goes out to all sides worldwide. Let that play ass nigga switch to be your guide as we go on the ride. Where player hating killers and hood niggas thrive. And lame motherfuckers can barely survive.
One morning I woke up next to a thick bitch, took a shower, dried off, brushed the gold teeth like Slick Rick. Topped up a session cologne like Dougie Fresh in the flesh, nigga blessed with success after slipping on my slick fit. The high discovered me, hit the front porch, two women buttily, lovely in front of me, got my head gone. I sent the bitch in the bed home, cause one of them got chocolate big thighs and the other one was a red bone. Where y'all going? Y'all think it's hell. What's your name? I wanna get up, what y'all doing tonight, shit? I got some homies that's lonely, never phony, we on some hype shit. Call up the buddies that you be tight with. We ain't really gonna be doing too much though, but riding around, bumper sounds tripping out while we flame Jane. Tapping the horn at the homies, the gang bang and slang cane to maintain tomorrow the same thing. Or we could chill at the crib and play spades and kick some ass a bit. Sneak past the click and get passionate. Grab your buckle and fasten it and get into some more nasty shit. Live if I could decide to try. Don't play me bogus, this ain't a spin moving. I ain't got no time to lie. Tell your girls we gon' be sliding by, but hit the weeds at first because my click gotta be riding high. Cause it feels so good.
It feels so good. How we get in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, I remember when I wear the
It feels so good. The way we kick it in the feel so good.
when I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, I remember when I wear the Me and my homies hooked up, so time was took up with niggas we love, smoking no bud, the flame tight, tripping off how we surviving this rugged terrain to try to hang tight, getting fucked up on gang night. Used to be gang fights, now we gotta try to relax with the strap. Even though we see Devo back to back, we still be holding stacks of packs, rolling through in black blacks, ashtrays with blunt reds and crack sacks. Hustling and chillin' what I'm focusing on. Bending through bitches' cribs, hoping it's on. If ain't no stroking, we strolling along, rolling the cone. Not really tripping because we taking smoke to the dome. Up in the tones while bigger rows and herringbones glisten from off the sunlight. Peeping the fees with their head done tight, booty hung right, and every night we see at least one fight. Hooking up with my fellow Westside cliques, not together much, but when we all spat Phillies and rug cuts. Despite the envy and jealousy throughout the others, it's love brothers riding cause all y'all my motherfuckers. So put the black magic on the ties and get the wax off the chrome. We gone, the blaze on till my brain's blown. Hoping to get my thing on, no matter what block you stay on. Kicking it around my world, it's the same song. So the mobsters just flame on. For scratch we was willing for spurtings of blood. Now we got gators on, hurting them clubs, but still at tips where they serving them dubs. Now we got Urcus and Buzz, straight beating up the block, searching for love. Reach up and hit the default, peek through the smoke and delighted the body, right what the party like. Are you as live as I? Come roll with me so we can ride the sky. But only if you let me play with you while we riding high, cause it feels so good.
It feels so good. How we get in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the
It feels so good. How we kick it in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the Sitting back cruising through the slow breeze, thinking how can I get more cheese? Bumping the system costing 4Gs. I stay on my P's for the pokies and split the Philly with my dope keys. Scoop a Figo to the crib and get my boy to bring a blessing through. Sit on the floor and play some Tekken 2. Lesson 2, I'm addressing you. Turn out the lights like the world-class wrecking crew. Bring out the best in you, confessing true. Lies about your inner thighs and where they been at, hoping maybe you be my lady. What's the potatoes without the gravy? What I'm feeling, no maybe soft with the silicone, baby. But can you pay me? Cause daily we riding on the whole stroll while rocking dope flows. I lose a spot if I choose to stop. We can cruise some blocks and talk about how later on you coming out your clothes, shoes, and socks. Now is that news or not? Cause I'ma step on the gas slow and smoking this last. So get it, be split it and spill it. Come watch me kill it. Tinted windows to conceal it. Off in the Astro with Billy's token on. The truck on, so I really feel it. Thinking about not having the rich life, but the hood life was still a good life and never slow. Always and forever though, forevermore. Rolling through the ghetto with nowhere to go, cause it feels so good.
It feels so good. How we kick it in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the
It feels so good. How we kick it in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the
It feels so good. How we kick it in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the
It feels so good. How we kick it in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the
It feels so good. How we kick it in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the
It feels so good. How we kick it in the feel so good.
When I ride up, fire, rolling through the hood with billies and hoes, like pepper when I wear the
Oh, baby. jets and made another one. Beat the way I put it on you, got you falling. Say you slide when it's 5 in the morning. Keep the ice when I ride, cause I'm ballin'. Oh yeah, no wonder you keep calling. You know it's a vibe, going all night. Look me in the eye, tell me sex lies. Oh baby, it's a vibe, going all night. Look me in the eye, tell me sex lies. Yeah. Tell me what I wanna hear. Tell me how you want it, tell me how you feel. Sex drive, I just hope that you could steal. Sex lies in my ear, give me chills. I know you don't mean it, just answer when I need it. Ain't no strings attached, so it ain't none could get between it. Drunk dials in the evening, that liquor keep me fiending. I'm just trying to grant you all your wishes, sex genie. Freaky, nasty, backseat or the balcony. I don't even remember what I said, so don't you ask me. Whatever keep you happy, don't take this shit to heart. Cause we was in the moment, but that shit stay in the dark. Beat the way I put it on you, got you falling. Say you slide when it's 5 in the morning. Keep the ice when I ride, cause I'm ballin'. Oh yeah, no wonder you keep calling. You know it's a vibe, going all night. Look me in the eye, tell me sex lies. Oh baby, it's a vibe, going all night. Look me in the eye, tell me sex lies. Yeah.
Drive her crazy when I talk when we fucking. But it's crazy cause if I ain't had nothing, we wouldn't be talking or fucking. I bust a nut and that's the inner discussion. I fuck you like it was our last time. I know it's lust, I'll say that I love you. I might just whisper in your ear and tell you nobody gon' fuck you like me. That shit turn around, she look back up like I'ma make you wife me. I push on her legs, I go in deep, but she don't even fight it. I won't stop until we reach the climax, I'ma keep on climbing. Look me in my eyes and say it's mine, but I just know she lying. Always on the grind, I don't have time for no wine and dining. I can find another you before you can go find a dime. You gon' make that pussy come for daddy is my favorite line.
Beat the way I put it on you, got you falling. Say you slide when it's 5 in the morning. Keep the ice when I ride, cause I'm ballin'. Oh yeah, no wonder you keep calling. You know it's a vibe, going all night. Look me in the eye, tell me sex lies. Oh baby, it's a vibe, going all night. Look me in the eye, tell me sex lies. Yeah. It's a vibe, it's a vibe, it's a vibe. Say it to me.
That's right, that's right. Everybody, welcome to the Sex Ed 101. Make sure you guys share the room, ping up some more people. We're about to play one more song, and then we're about to get to the topic, sex and religion. Tonight's topic is going to be fire. So make sure you guys tune in, and make sure you guys ping up, share the room. Trigger, go ahead and play one more song.
It's like I got the 4-4 cop on the block, in it 2-door drop. I'm my spot, it's tipping but hot. The pussy ass cops on some murder in the lot. My nigga got popped with a bullet that was meant for me. Get add out by T's and B's in the Regency. Fuck what the reason be, I'ma start squeezing knees. Them niggas ain't G's, they wanna be thugs, and it ain't shit. This ain't these motherfucking slugs, the fools ain't plugged. Plus ain't no hoes over here, I done dropped more dead bodies than tears. Brought to life mama's worst fears, visions of a son dying, with them hot ones flying. Baby mama's crying at the funeral, cause the magnum lit him like a black and mad. When I rolled out, on his ass on a solo, I caught him up at the Momo, cooking up cocoa. I got the tip on the low-low, busted in like Popo, taking lies with the oh-no. It's a fofo, mini missile, with a silencer for the whistle. My favorite pistol, cause when I let that bitch ride, I know the homicide is being carried out and official. Niggas steady bumping guns, but don't want none, cause of these hot ones that explode on contact. A maniac that's prepared to die in combat. Besides all that, my fofo keeps me laced, they'll keep paid and safe. I can see the fear in your face as I reach my waist for this warm embrace.
For the fofo, when I pick it up, I don't wanna let it go, because the nigga straight loving your warm embrace. I got plenty love for the 4-5, I wanna pick it up, I don't wanna let it ride. I'm still a bust cause I survive from your warm embrace. I got plenty love for the 9 million, I wanna pick it up, I don't really wanna kill. I'm still a bust because I'm eating your warm embrace. All you motherfuckers better duck and hide, if I'ma let it ride, it's either to the side. It's not the bust because I'm loving your warm embrace.
element of surprise when I'm taking these hoes lives. With my customized 4-5, then enough ammunition to knock off you, your crew, and some more guys. You motherfuckers better get wise. Make sure your first shot is sweet. Try to kill the elite, cause you ain't getting no more tries. Hate to make a Nubian mother weak, but fuck it long as I don't hear the whole cries. Put a beam between his eyes and make that bitch nigga soul rise. No matter what the size, the warm embrace on my 45, make sure that nigga crosses me dies. You don't wanna throw them things when they cock the name, it's hard to think in a split second time. But Maze ain't new to the game, I used to spark when we shot to light up this tunnel with crime. But niggas get bucked for dimes, and it's like you a magnet for sin. Fuck pretend to be your friend, till they get close enough to your wins. To do you win, that shit put me on 10. And make me wanna put the barrel of this solid fin up under that nigga's chin. Plus he talking big shit about war like he don't know my speed, not mob gon' win. But I dare one of you niggas to say my name, cause I put a fucking bullet in your closest kin, just to get under your skin like a dirty syringe. Plus I know you can't win with a gun or a pen. So when you see Maze come into place, you better say your grace, boy. I fuck up your face like a can of mace. Before I get disgraced, I'ma catch a case, making you hoes feel the wrath of my warm embrace.
For the fofo, I wanna pick it up, I don't wanna let it go, because a nigga straight loving your warm embrace. I got plenty love for the 4-5, I wanna pick it up, I don't wanna let it ride, but still a bust cause I survive from your warm embrace. I got plenty love for the 9 mil, I wanna pick it up, I don't really wanna kill, but still a bust because I'm needing your warm embrace. All you motherfuckers better duck and hide, if I'ma let it ride, I stop the tip aside, I stop the bust because I'm loving your warm embrace. With you, I passionately squeeze on 17 for show. Hold you ever so tightly, I love you, Nina, never wanna let you go. Miss Millimeters making a mockery of motherfuckers. Got to be ruckus when I get my clutches upon this hole. Itching to let the barrel blow, like a sparrow, how to flow, like an arrow, follow most, spit 'em up and swallow slow. I reload the clip in your ass crack, you constantly blast back. Payback from flashbacks, from bitches know. Watch till I see the crow. From the intro, you was fucked from the phasing. Deep in the cuts and abrasions, erupts and amazing. Nigga, money in the buck, fuck the gazing. Enemies get to up from the blazing. Who you be burning them with your black ass? Murderous hips, hurting the grips, right on personal lips. Opposition down for serving them six. Every one of them with a hit, but someone's missing from the jerks and the kicks. Cause I be working my bitch, try to pimp her, but she a wild in the tank thing. Kicking static on she gang bang, blast to the fullest moon. Niggas better pull it soon, I suffer from hella 5 bullet wounds. And even though I stay club with some thugs, why call a stud? When it comes to her love, it's none above. She drawing blood, static under the rug. Cause every time I take a hit of the bud and give you a hug, you gon' pop up a slug. Trigger Remy on the block, gotta bust the Glock. When the Henny hit the chest, bust the Smith and West. Fuck a discussion, I'm busting them all, clutching my balls. If I see I'll be late the rest, let me hit the sex. Loose revolver, used to be a problem solver, but the Nina made me a baller. No stop to take the place of the black nine, leaving flat lines. Feeling fury, you was born to taste from a warm embrace. For the fofo, and when I pick it up, I don't wanna let it go, because a nigga straight loving your warm embrace. I got plenty love for the 4-5, and when I pick it up, I don't wanna let it ride, but still a bust cause I survive from your warm embrace. I got plenty love for the 9 mil, and when I pick it up, I don't really wanna kill, but still a bust because I'm needing your warm embrace.
Thank you for everybody coming. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sex Ed 101 with myself, Professor Jazz, and my partner Ty Khalif there, aka Dr. Scorpio. Make sure you guys follow the University Hip Hop Zone. Make sure you guys follow your teachers and welcome, welcome tonight. Tonight's topic is sex and religion. We're going to go ahead and give you guys a brief history about sex and religion, different types of religions. And we would like you guys to also express yourself about your religion and what affects, with having sex before marriage, or, what is the
Fuck face.
tab? What, Ty?
Oh no, go baby. I'm sorry about that.
No, go ahead, Dr. Scorpio. You go ahead and talk.
I just want to introduce everybody to the sex ed zone if they've never been here before and they don't know exactly what we do here. But what we do here is we introduce sex and education, and also we actually, you know, give feedback on things that we learn together. And also, you get to talk about the shit that runs your life. We get to understand what makes you you. You know what I mean? It gives insight for your sex life, you know, your everyday life, your relationship life, things like that. And it also builds character. It also makes us, leave with something, right? It's dope here, right? So I definitely want to introduce this to everybody who just came into the room, and I also want to just give a really good introduction because some of you guys probably never been in here before, but this is a great room. We do this very often, and once again, thank you for coming and thank you for being here with us, right? So if we do
Hey,
have
yo.
any people in the room that have not been here before, I would love if you were to ping anybody that you think would be interested in this type of stuff. Ping them to the room. You know, give a share out. Make sure you follow the house at the top, Hip Hop Zone. That's what we do here, right? We have tons of room, tons of content, tons of things that we do here on a daily, right? And as well as weekly, right? It varies just from the content that we do. Okay. So make sure you're in tune. Get in tune. Make sure you follow our schedule. We do shit all the time. We are a family. Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt Dr. Scorpio, but I would like to say we don't only just have sex ed class, but we also have after hours. So after hours is open mouths. We get to talk about open topics, being more open minded about our sexuality. We talk about sex, anything about sex. It's all open. It's blunt. We could go ahead and talk and say pussy, dick, whatever, balls, whatever, fellatio, whatever. But it's open mouths.
Not the pause.
Anything goes. Any
That is a
Manny,
fact.
don't
That is a
start.
fact. That is a fact. But I do want to
But
say,
it's
let's
some
just,
very hot topics.
that's a
So make
fact.
sure you guys
What?
tune in.
I
Tune
do
into
want to,
the house.
that is a fact. And I do just want to say, please, you guys, let's just be respectful for anyone's opinion here that we have in the zone. And let's also just be mindful that everyone might not think the same way you do. And, let's not overtalk anyone. Let's all be respectful in the zone, correct? Right. So let's continue to do what we're doing here. We're just going to have fun tonight. We're just going to do what we have to do here tonight. And we're going to keep, we're going to keep it cordial. We're going to keep it fun, keep it light, right? You know what I mean? So with that being said, I just wanted to actually introduce everyone to the topic here, right? And the topic here tonight is sex and religion. Okay. So obviously it's self-explanatory and it goes way deeper than just what it sounds. Okay, so it's not just about sex and religion itself, but it's also about the inner facets of both of those things together and how do they correlate with one another, right? So we have a cultural aspect of spirituality with um an action of love, an action of intercourse, an action of power, right? That can also be used as a moral compass based off of when you take this action with another person. So it's very, very in depth on how we look at these things. It's not just sex, it's not just intercourse, it's also a power, it's also a superpower, right? Which is why they are governed by these things like religion and spirituality, because we know how this goes. When you are governing yourself by a spiritual belief or practice, it comes with guidelines, correct? And it also comes with how you do the things you do, whether it's sex, whether it's, your day-to-day life, whether it's how you live your life based off of morals, mannerisms, things like that, right? Belief systems, whatever you may subscribe to outside of your religion is still connected to how you were upbrought within your spiritual belief, right? So I just wanted to give a very, very, very brief topic, starting off here, because I understand that everybody may not understand how the world is really ran by spirituality or religions connected to certain spiritual beliefs, right? So the world's principles and religions and spiritual traditions may be classified into a small number of major groups. Though this is not a uniform practice, this theory began in the 18th century with the goal of recognizing the relative levels of civility in different societies, but this practice has fallen into dispute in many different contemporary cultures, right? So everyone is trying to figure out what's supreme, what thought or what belief is best, what should we subscribe to, what should we do. We're on this side of the hemisphere, we're on this side of the country. What are we doing here? What do we believe in, right? And it's broken down into a lot of different groups, right? But we have a lot of different popular religions that are really circumnavigating the globe right now. So obviously we have Christianity, correct, right? As well as Islam. We also have Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Judaism, right? And we also have I would say the subgroups, which the subgroups here are also listed under atheism and people who do not believe in a God per se, but they also understand that they are here for a purpose and they live with that purpose, right? And they push that forward. So that's very important to understand because some people in the room tonight, they may not believe in a God per se, but they might understand that they're here for a purpose. They might understand that they push things forward. They might understand that it's important for them to be positive. It's important for them to be good people. It's important for them to actually do things that can propel their life to the next step, right? So it's important for us to understand that in a whole nother realm of thinking beyond just what you may have experienced within your own realm of thought. So let's continue, right? So as we go forward, I wanted to actually give a very brief breakdown based off of what we actually will experience here when it comes down to just breaking down religions and breaking down the things that we will actually experience here tonight. Okay, so as I really just, introduce these topics, I just want to thank everybody once again for being here. And I want to thank everybody for, just kind of giving their time to us. I know you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us right now. And that really truly means a lot to us. Okay. So let's not get that confused whatsoever. Okay. So as we continue here, when it comes down to just sex and religion, they're intertwined very deeply. And you would be surprised because it seems like sex is taboo, right? It seems like sex and religion does not coexist with each other, right? But it also does because no matter what we believe or what we think, right, we also believe that we are also have free will. We can do what we want to do. We can live how we want to live. We can do whatever we want to do, correct? So when it comes down to it, it's about our point of view. It's about how we live our lives. It's about how things have came into being, especially when it comes down to just sex and religion in general, right? So when it comes down to just how we are thinking and what we are saying and what we are living our lives based off of, I wanted to break this down just generally, right? So religion and sexuality, right? The views on various different religion and religious believers regarding human sexuality range widely among within them, from giving sex and sexuality a rather negative connotation, right? Because sex is supposed to be this dirty, nasty thing we do, right? Right. So from giving that type of connotation to it seems like people don't understand that what we do here in a sexual manner, right, or just living in sexual expression doesn't always have to be evil. It doesn't always have to be looked down upon, but it's like what you deem as treasure, I may deem as trash, right? With another man's trash, another man's treasure, right? And it comes down just basically just that, right? So you have some religions distinguish between human sexual activities that are practiced for biological reproduction and sometimes allow only when in formal marital status and at that certain age, that's when it's permitted, right? And those practices are only for sexual pleasure or evaluating relative morality. So you have a lot of people who really deem sex as bad based off of their beliefs and based off of when and how you have sex or when you express your sexuality, right? And how you do so, right? So, sexual morality in general has varied greatly over time and in between cultures. A society's sexual norms, standards of sexual conduct can be linked to religious beliefs and social and environmental conditions, or all of these. Sexualities and reproductions are fundamental elements in human interaction in societies worldwide. Furthermore, sex restriction is one of those universal cultures, particularly to human societies. So, I mean, obviously, we're all humans. Obviously, we all subscribe to sexual pleasure, right? But it deems when it's appropriate based off of how you were brought up spiritually. It's not going to just be okay for you to do certain things and how you do certain things outside of what you think, right? If I think it's okay to have sex promiscuously based off of my beliefs, it may not be okay for you. And that's very important to understand. And it doesn't make it better or worse for either point of view, but it's very important to understand that that is how we view life. That is how we look at everyone around us, right? So I wanted to give that overview just so you guys understand how we're coming about these things because we want to understand how has sex and religion shaped your life? How has sex and religion shaped your dating life, You get what I'm saying? So I do want to pass this over to Jazz because I definitely want to understand how she feels about the same thing. I understand that just generally the presence in religion here is
Well,
is very heavy, right? Sexual and
yeah,
you know what I mean? So I definitely want
because
to pass
like
it
you
over to Jazz.
said, back in the times back then, it was considered taboo. It was a sin. It was something that was kept behind doors. You wouldn't really talk about it, and anyone at that time that basically, when they're off to somebody else, outside their marriage, they ended up getting killed. Women back then, the Renaissance times, if they ended up cheating on their husbands, they ended up getting one of their breasts taken off. It gets chopped off. They will mutilate these women to make them less attractive and make sure that they don't cheat again.
Right.
But back then, it was okay for the men to have multiple wives, or they'll have a wife and multiple mistresses. But um, back then, also, where you could talk about where um, it was taboo to go ahead and have same sex, between two people, and it wasn't expressed outside as well. It was behind closed doors, and because once it got known, they would end up killing both males or both females at that time because it was considered a sin. So a lot has changed between that time and nowadays, where it's more open, and now we have different genders, sexuality, stuff like that. People are more in this new generation, more open, and it's been, slowly going that way. But, we come in at different times. Again, it was considered as a taboo, a sin. You were supposed to have sex as to reproduce, only to reproduce, and you're supposed to enjoy it with your spouse.
Right. So, I do understand we probably have viewed these things in a certain manner, but the sexual presence within religion is very, very, it's heavy, right? Because it's based off of like human interaction, and our human interaction is to do what? Reproduce, right? Is to interact with the opposite sex, right? Religion is a cultural phenomenon and a subculture within our larger cultural system. Different religions have different sexual teachings about what constitutes sexual morality. Every religion is different, right? While members within a specific religious domination may also have different beliefs and practices. Religiosity, or the acceptance of the teachings of a particular religion, is more important as a determinant of sexual behavior than a specific region per se. Orthodox Judaism, traditional Catholicism, traditional Protestantism are alike in their condemnation of masturbation, abortions, homosexuality, and premarital and extramarital sex, right? But more liberal members of these religions may not tolerate these activities, but may expose themselves as necessary by means to maintain or obtain health, right? So you have a lot of people who may subscribe to any sexual or denomination or expression, but they also may believe in a certain spiritual belief as well. And sometimes they can coexist, but sometimes they may actually not coexist based off of what the actual spiritual belief is saying in the documentation or the scriptures. So it's important to understand that we live in this time where things can coexist. At a time prior to now, they did not coexist. And we are kind of, paving our own path right now. So a lot of people may be, believing in a certain thing, but within that certain spiritual belief, it's also condemned by the action that those people are taking. So it is very important to understand that, right? So I wanted to get straight into the penalties for sexual intercourse within religion, right? So you may already know some of this stuff. I mean, I don't know how many people we have on stage here who may be Christians, who may be Muslims, who may be, whatever you subscribe to spiritually, right? It's a bunch of different people who have a different outlook on life, who also live a life that is according to their own will, right? And it also has something to do with just your point of view. When it comes down to it, it is based off of your point of view. So I would like to start with just generally Christianity, right? So when it comes down to Christianity, it says that each man should have their sexual relations with his own wife and each own woman with their own husband. And the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife and likewise to her husband. And the wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband, right? And this is based off of Christianity. These are the views. Now, when it comes down to it, it says here in Hebrews 13:4, it reads that let marriage be held in honor among all, and let marriage bed be undefiled. For God will judge the sexuality immoral and adulterous within a marriage. Partners are meant to be faithful to God and each other. So within that, it basically is clearly saying that sex is only permitted between married people. And outside of that realm of being or existing, it is unpermitted, right? So we clearly understand that. I know it's a lot of Christians here on stage. We already probably understand that, right? So if we dive more into other things, we have Hinduism, right? And it says, according to Hinduism, sex is an integral part of life and is not a taboo. In fact, it is a part of the four parts of life, Dharma, Artha, Karma, and Moksha. And the four parts of the Hinduism aspect to life, the karma is meant here for all activities which are giving us pleasure. Sex is one of those activities. So, Karma Sutra, if you were not present in our last room, Karma Sutra is very heavy. And within Hinduism, and it says Karma Sutra is the oldest book about sex written, and this book is detailed in descriptions about sex life, sex types, positions, important compatibility partners, and also it gives a way of life of living. It's not just about sex, so it's very detailed there. So according to Hinduism, sex is a sacred only if it's marital, right? So that's when it's sacred. That's when it's deemed as the highest vibration, correct? And Hinduism permits premarital sex or extramarital sex. Hence, in a life relationship is not allowed for Hindus. Ideally, one should have sex for only reproduction. But practically, that's not possible because everyone has, recreational sex. But the view is, again, marriage and being in a committed relationship.
To enjoy it unless with your partner. So again, if you went off when they're off with somebody else outside your marriage, especially a woman, it was really considered a sin and they will punish you. They will even again kill you or just again make you just unattractive so you won't do it again. And times have changed and it's just different now where everybody's more open minded, but they have lost more about what it was supposed to be about reproducing. Now it's more different and more about the politics and stuff like that. But yeah, that's my thoughts right now. But I want to go ahead and if anybody has
I
something
have
to
something to
say right
say.
now,
Yeah, me.
go ahead, honey.
This is Honey. So, yeah, this was very informative. A lot of information was given. So from what I gathered, from what was given, there's a lot of different religions that teach a lot of different things. But one of the main things I want to speak to is how sex is demonized. It's not really promote it in a positive way because as you said, it's based in not having sex before marriage and just procreating. So like it can be very frustrating for most people because these are the principles across the board, even with all these different religions, is not to have sex before marriage. Like when you put them all together, they're all pretty much saying the same thing. And so I think that it could be so overwhelming. It could be so, I would say, entrapping mentally because like you're trying to figure out yourself in a sexual way. But if you are under these belief systems, it can be very hard to do that because at the end of the day, you're like, I really love the religion I'm in, but at the same time, I want to know what's going on with my body. So I feel like sometimes they're not holding a space, right, for people to really explore in a healthy way without feeling like, quote unquote, you're going to hell, quote unquote, if you have sex before marriage, you're doomed. And there's no forgiveness for it, right? So I just feel like this is a huge topic. Actually, the whole time I was thinking this should be a sex conversation, right? Meaning that sex conversation. And so like when it's coming to this topic, I'm very I would say very interested in, because like I want people to understand themselves in that area. It's so many things that falls under this topic. I know we talked about tantric sex, and I think the last one we talked about just like the mental, physical, and emotional, right, and like psychological effects of sex. And also this ties into religion, right? The way we think about religion, the way we manifest it in our lives, the way we use it in our lives, it really translates to how we have sex and how comfortable we are with it. So I was just, the whole time I was just thinking that. And I'm just wondering what everybody else is thinking about sex and religion, and how does that resonate with them as individuals. Is it rough for you? Are you open to having sex, or has
Mm-hmm.
religion repressed you? So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
curious of what everybody else in the room is thinking, so we can
Mm-hmm.
get this party jumping.
I'm
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
liberated.
and Honey landed her
Hold
plane.
on, man.
I'm liberated. I feel liberated when I have sex,
Right.
and I don't want to wait. What? I don't want to
Right.
wait till no marriage. I want to know if the joint cooking correctly before I get into the kitchen. You feel me? Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about
And let me just say this, right? I'm so glad that Honey said what she said, because that's exactly why we're talking about what we're talking about, right? It's about actually having a certain type of point of view that kind of just governs your life based off of that. Because you have a lot of people who are like, per se, in a deep relationship within their spiritual practice or belief, but they don't really operate that same way when it comes down to sex. For whatever reason, when it comes to sex and it comes to dating or whatever, it all goes out the window. Uh, Play something for you guys just to give a point of view based off of just outside of your realm of thinking per se. Whatever you possibly may be thinking, you may not have understood, why you do what you do or how you do what you do, right? So I just want to give some content for you guys, right? So Trigger, bro, if there's any way you could
some
play
water.
that joint for me, bro. The joint I sent over, bro, is there any way you could play that for me? I would definitely get it over to you. You know what I mean? I definitely would appreciate it.
You talking
Booty
about the
talk.
religion and sexuality? I
Correct.
got you.
Oh, I thought he was
Thank
And
you,
talking
make
about
brother.
booty talk 18. My
Thank
bad.
you,
make
brother.
sure you guys share the room, ping on some more people
Oh
because
yeah, I've been lighting it
like,
up, girl.
Thank you,
thank
brother.
you.
I appreciate you.
All right, can we play booty talk 18
No, we
after that?
can't,
Oh, I'm
man.
sorry.
No, we can't.
All right, not tonight. Not
Not
tonight.
tonight.
All right.
Man, ping on
No,
some
man,
more
no,
people.
man, though. But
I
religion,
don't think I
religion
need to
is.
tell you
Oh, it's all
that in a very
set.
special and peculiar way, Western man is hung up on sex. And the major reason for this is that he has a religious background quite unique among the religions of the world. I'm thinking specifically of Christianity, and in a secondary way, Judaism, insofar as Judaism in Europe and the United States is strongly influenced by Christianity. But Christianity is, of all religions in the world, the one uniquely preoccupied with sex. More so than Priapism, more so than Tantric Yoga, more so than any kind of fertility cult which has ever existed on the face of the earth. There has never, never, never been a religion in which sexuality was so important. And there are certain very simple standards by which this can be judged. In popular speech, when you say of a given person that he or she is living in sin, you know very well that you do not mean that they are engaged in a business to defraud the public by the sale of badly made bread or anything of that kind. You know that they're not setting up a check forgery business. No. People who are living in sin are people who have an irregular sexual partnership. In the same way, when you say something is immoral, it pretty much means that it's something sexually irregular. I remember when I was a boy in school, we used to have a preacher. He came to us every year, the same man, once a year, and he always talked on the subject of drink, gambling, and immorality. I remember the way he rolled it round his tongue, and it was very clear what immorality was. And also, I might point out that present company accepted the Unitarian Church being somewhat unusual. Most churches in America and in England and in other parts of the Western world are, frankly, sexual regulation societies. They occasionally get excited about other moral issues, but really not very much. In other words, when you ask, what can people get kicked out of church for? Let's supposing you consider important ministers, bishops, priests, and so on. They can live in envy, hatred, malice, and all uncharitableness and be in perfectly good standing. But the moment anything about their sexual life becomes a little unusual, out you go. And that's about the only thing you can go out for. You study, for example, a Roman Catholic manual of moral theology. These manuals of moral theology are technical books about sins of all kinds, just exactly what they are, how they're done, how grave they are, mostly for the advice of confessors. And they're always arranged according to the Ten Commandments. And when they get to the commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery, the volume expands like this. In fact, it occupies 2/3 of the whole book, all the details. So we have, in a very special way, got sex on the brain, which isn't exactly the right place for it. Now, this needs going into because it is not as simple as it looks. There are really two roots of the whole problem. One of them is the problem of why sexual pleasure of all pleasures, as a kind of really supreme pleasure, is singled out for religious people to be particularly afraid of. This is not only true in Christianity. I say Christianity emphasizes it in a certain way, but in Asian religions also, especially in India, there is a prevailing view that if you want to attain real heights of spirituality, the one thing you must give up is sexuality, in the ordinary sense of genital sexual relationships with man or woman, as the case may be. And this reflects in part, you see, an attitude to the physical world. Because it is, after all, through sexuality that we have, along with eating, our most fundamental relationship to materiality, to nature, to the physical universe. And it is the point at which we can become most attached to the body, to the physical organism, to material life. That's one reason why it's problematic. The other reason why it's problematic is more subtle. And that is that sexuality is something which you cannot get rid of. Do what you may, life is sexual, in the sense, for example, that you are either male or female. There are various other gradations, but basically they're forms of maleness and femaleness, and also that every one of you is the result of sexual intercourse. And this feature of life can be looked at in one of two ways. You can say, on the one hand, that all man's higher ideals, his spirituality and so forth, is simply repressed sexuality. Or on the other hand, you can say that human sexuality is a manifestation, a particular form or expression of what is spiritual, metaphysical, divine, or whatever you want to call it. I hold to the latter view. I don't think that religion is repressed sexuality.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I wanted to just ask everybody in the room, what did they think about that? That was Alan Watts. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with Alan Watts, but he's an intellectual. He talks about a lot of conscious information. And this particularly is something that, I thought it was important, to share with you guys upon this topic. So I would love to see what anybody likes to think about that.
So you
If
saying
I
we
may.
can't have sex? Oh, go ahead, sis.
Now go ahead, Rolly. I can go after you.
Nah, I'm about to be silly. If y'all gonna be serious,
Yeah,
go ahead,
let's
sis.
keep it.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be playful. Go ahead, yo.
Yeah, let's keep it. Yeah,
As
yeah.
long as you can be
Go ahead.
seriously funny,
Yeah, let's
that's
be.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go ahead, Six. Go ahead, Six.
Listening to him speak, in my opinion, he wavered between the topic of whether we should have premarital sex or however you want to call it or not. But for the most part, I believe he was really had the church on trial, and he mentioned about the Roman Catholic religion. I'm God body, so I hope not to offend anyone who may observe that religion or any other religion for the most part. But when it comes to religiosity and the topic of sex, I think it's a lot of egotism put inside the topic and as to how we should observe things. My consciousness tells me that man was created for woman and woman was created for man. Therein is the marriage. You just have to find who you're compatible with. We won't find a marriage license for Adam and Eve. We won't find a marriage license for Cain and his wife or any other biblical characters that we learn about throughout the scripture. However, it gives, I guess, it speaks out of both sides of its mouth with sexuality and religion because we are observed today that man should have one wife, with the exceptions of maybe Christianity and or Hebrew Israelites where they can be polyamorous. However, he stated that sex was rife or all through religiosity, and it is. If we were to read certain passages in the Bible and take our emotions out of it and read for what it says, you will learn that even Christ had sex. One of the metaphors that's used, and anyone can look it up in comparison to how it's used religiously, where it says the washing of feet in the Bible is a metaphor for having sex. So I believe it gives maybe a two-sided approach or a bifurcated sword-like approach to the topic. For myself, I personally believe that marriage is between a man and a woman who consciously move into a relationship, and at times it can be with more than one woman if the desire of all partners are there. But we put down men who have more than one partner. However, Christianity have a way of upholding King Solomon and King David, and these two were kings, of course, father and son, and no one had more wives than they had, but they called them concubines. So I believe that ultimately, if there's that connection between me and Goddess, that upper and that lower connection, then there's nothing wrong with it. Because when again Adam and Eve was married, that marriage was a bond of a physical union, a coming together of compatibility. There was no marriage license. We observe these ceremonies today for the simple fact of letting onlookers and others know that you are taken and you have committed yourself in a union with a mate, whether it be male or whether it be female. But before that ceremony actually takes place, the marriage has been consecrated by both parties. And I'll land there.
Thank you, Six. Thank you, Six. I appreciate that. Anybody else want to give a comment on basically how they feel about just the content that we just provided? And don't be afraid to speak your mind too. I'm not sure who here are, you might be a Christian, you might be a Muslim, you might be anything. You know what I mean? It's that's your point of view.
Well, I just like structure. My personality is very structured, and I like to do things in a certain particular order, regardless of a religion. So, like a lot of times, when I would say my thought process is not based on a religious perspective, I'll say a lot of things that I maybe adhere to is spirituality based, which meaning having a relationship with God and also using the Bible as a tool to help me in a beneficial way. And that's the way I think about it because I feel like life without structure, men fall to anything. Without a certain level of discipline, I think people will do anything, right? So if we're doing anything, then what's the point of like all of this? It's like what's the point of all of it if we don't have any type of thing to go by? So I don't know. I just think that we'll be running around knocking each other against the head or, doing some crazy stuff that may inherently hurt ourselves. So I just think that I feel like religion is just a tool to give guidance and help people understand themselves better, not to suppress them or to make them feel entrapped. So that's just, that's kind of the way I think about it. And that's what I'm going to continue to do because it's been working for me personally in my life. So yeah, I think I've used what I've grew up under as a way to protect myself from predators. To be honest. So yeah, that's just how I feel about it.
Thank you, honey. Understandable completely. I get it. And I guess, some people may feel like you need a moral compass for those things. You might need a moral compass for how you express yourself sexually, right? You might need some type of balance, but there's nothing wrong with being free within your sexuality. Anybody else feel, contradictory to that manner? Or do you feel like it's just okay to just be, as sexual as you want to be or live in a prowess type of, point of view? You know what I mean?
Nah, I
Let's
could respond to
go.
that one, seriously. I could respond to that. I think it's a slippery slope, because I do believe when you do have intercourse, or it don't have to be intercourse. It could just be hugging somebody or being around somebody, period. Uh, whether it's intimate or not, that energy transfers, um, and it can affect you, in a good way or a bad way. So it's important to be mindful of that. Um, my bad, I forget what you said a little bit. My fault. Cause I was trying to look at all angles of it. But yeah. So it can happen either way. Oh, Serenity, what else, Serenity? Oh, come up here. My bad, everybody. Make sure y'all looking in the bottom, y'all. Yeah. So I just think it just depends. It depends. Intention is important, yo. I think intention and consciousness is important. Um, when people are around each other, period. You know what I mean? You gotta be conscious on what you allow around you and what you give to people. And I land right there.
I
Very
have
well
something to
spoken,
add.
bro.
Oh,
This.
Of
sorry.
course you can. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I wanted to add to what I was saying as well is that sexual freedom, right? To me, what that looks like for me is like having one partner that I can explore in all different areas of my sex, like of just having, I don't even call it sex, but making love. So for me, liberation comes in that fashion that like I could feel secure and stuff like that. So I don't think just because some people may choose to like have sex with different people, that doesn't mean that I'm not sexually liberated or I'm not sexually free because I'm free within the relationship of the person I'm with and that person letting me explore how I want to, right? So it's just like, I mean, there's like kind of like two sides to it. And honestly, there's so many things that comes in with when you're having sex with different people, right? The one part is there is soul ties and things like that, taking on different energies and things like that can be detrimental to you. So when I say as a protection, I think these constructs give you something to think about. It's not to say, oh, well, you can't do this or you can't do that. And some of them do say that. But if you stop someone in their tracks and then give them something to think about of why they are pursuing sex with various people, then that's going to give them a chance to really assess, okay, is this going to be helpful for me? Is this going to be beneficial for me? And if this is, how do I do it in a way that to make sure I'm protecting myself? So it's just, it all depends on how we looking at it. And also, it doesn't have to be anything of having sex. I think kind of like what Manny was saying is that you can have I would say sexual arousal without penetration, meaning that someone can arouse you mentally that can be also beneficial to you physically without actually going in for the kill. So there's so many different ways that you can utilize sex energy without just going from person to person, because whether you put religion on the table or take it off, there is scientific proof that a lot of things come with that. And you got a lot of people that's not using protection. So there's a lot of different illnesses that you can get from doing this. So it's kind of like, I know we always try to tie sex into religion, but the reality of it is, if you don't practice a safe way of having sex and making sure that the partners that you're with is safe, and then also understanding where you're coming from psychologically when you are invested in this type of lifestyle, you can really harm yourself psychologically. So like, I think sometimes we have to stop just blaming it all on religion and really start thinking through what does sex really mean to you as a person? How does it benefit you, and how, like, what are the pros and cons when you are engaging in these activities? Because we always try to say, well, oh, the reason I don't do it because the Bible said, oh, the reason I don't, no, sometimes the reason that you don't do it, it could be, you could have had a traumatic experience, right, that left you traumatized. That's the reason you don't do it. But I feel like a lot is blamed on religion when it's a lot of other things happening in life that really affects sex and making love and all of this stuff that we call interacting with each other in this way. So I just think there's so many dynamics that I think that we need to pull out and really discuss. And I'm just wondering, I haven't heard anybody else speak on this, so I'm just curious of what other people think about how this topic resonate with them. Cause this is really deep, like for real. And I just want to know how it resonates with everybody.
And yes, thank you
Hello.
so much, honey. And I don't wanna control the stage, but I see in the chat that uh Bennett or Bennett wanted to speak, wanted to chime in. Anybody, we all, it's popcorn style. But if y'all do say something in the chat, people will check the chat and we'll try to get everybody so everybody can give their perspective. Um,
Hey, hey, family. What's the question? I'm sorry, I'm coming in late.
oh, they play the audio, so it was a long
Oh,
audio.
okay, okay.
So, yes,
You can
I
give
think,
your you can give a really okay, so it's just basically Serenity, how you doing, sis? It's basically just your views on sexuality and religion or spiritual beliefs per se. And in the audio, the guy's name is Alan Watts. I'm not sure if anybody once again has ever heard of that guy, but he's a very intellectual guy. He brings up a lot of intellectual properties within his own right about sexuality, religion, strictly just spirituality in a whole. And he really questions how we view sexuality as in correlation to religion and how it dictates what we do in our day-to-day life. So it's important for us to kind of actually dive into these type of things. So what would be your point of view when it comes to just spirituality and also sex when it comes down to that, right?
And let's if Robbie was gonna get off the mic,
Yeah,
Bennett
Robbie.
said,
Yeah, please, man,
yeah.
Robbie.
So
Yeah.
I just want I don't want nobody get missed. Whoever want to speak, but if Serenity's ready to go right now, cool.
No, I'm not
Robbie,
ready.
No, I thought
No,
it
no,
was
no, no,
Bennett
I'm not ready.
and
okay.
Robbie.
And then Bennett,
Yep.
yes, Bennett wanted to go. Robbie was getting off the mic, and then we can, cause we want everybody to get a chance to. Go ahead, Bennett.
Okay, yeah, appreciate it. How's everybody doing tonight? Um, I just really appreciate all of you for opening this room and coming to share because this has actually been really heavy on my heart lately. So it's kind of like God brought y'all to me to share this space with y'all. But yeah, on the topic, I just want to start off by saying I feel like marriage is really pushed in the media and as being socially acceptable amongst religious groups and even people who aren't that religious. But I also feel like it's a reason why that is a reason why, okay, marriage is automatically going to be the answer and not sexual education, because it's a problem, really. There are so many different people within the population and health conditions and issues that sex bring about that aren't talked about. So I feel like marriage is kind of like the band-aid on it saying, okay, this is in contract. You can't cheat on me. It's on paper. That's what I feel like people use that as at this point in age. And sex being a business, they can't make money off of sex if people change how they view about it. They're not going to buy into it anymore if everybody's desexualized because they're educated. You know what I mean? And it's just a thought, but I feel like there's just a reason the schools really don't touch on it anymore, maybe once or twice in high school with kids. And I know, especially this younger generation, they're having sex early as 11, 12 years old. Like, it's really different. Times have really changed. And there's no conversations being had about how sex changes your body, how you take care of your body, and all the other problems that come with it. I personally, myself, I'm a very spiritual person, but I also understand that sex and is more of an exchange of energy. And there are people who are not conscious of that. There are people who are not conscious of their own energy or how to differentiate it from the energies from other people that are put off on you. So that leads to a lot of confusion and misinformation given when it comes to breaking down, okay, how do we approach sex in the media? And yeah.
Very well said.
Thank
Very well
you.
said.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you.
said.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead,
And
Jazz.
welcome. No, I just want to say thank you and welcome. Thank you for your thoughts about this. Again, welcome everyone to the Sex Ed 101. Tonight's topic is sex and religion. Make sure you guys share the room, ping us some more people. And Robbie, you are next. What are your thoughts?
Good morning, everybody. Basically, when I'm listening to everybody speak, the first thing that comes to my mind is just from my own personal experiences. When you have sex without a meaningful or deep emotional connection, to me, it's just equivalent of eating fast food or junk food. Like, it'll be pleasurable, but it won't sustain you. And because it doesn't sustain you, it leaves you hungry, it leaves you thirsty. And I think as human beings, we thirst for knowledge, we thirst for self understanding. And very few people are comfortable in their own skin and achieve, being content with self. So I think society plays on our insecurities. Bad advice is promoted, lifestyles that can lead to destruction are put in the forefront, and it's romanticized to a degree. But I think if you keep living reckless, you're just going to get a lot of baggage. You'll get emotional baggage that may take you years of therapy or maybe some type of religious experience, you know what I'm saying, to release some of that, because you got to give yourself permission to be human. I think a lot of times, well, maybe it's changing now with social media, but a lot of times still nobody wants to be, labeled as a sexual deviant. You know what I mean? No matter what their body count is or whatever, just just for themselves, that's kind of like private intel, right? and we still live in a judgmental society. But I think none of us are beyond redemption or forgiveness, and it starts with self. And I just think when you get to a certain level of maturity, you just don't have an appetite for variety, especially if you've been out there. There is something nice about exclusivity. You know what I mean? Exclusivity and contentment and order in your life. When you have assets, when you have a lot to lose, you kind of look for more stability. Maybe when you're younger, or if you're young at heart and you're still trying to find yourself, you're gonna equate, you know, volume with value. But like I said, without that strong emotional connection, it'll be like fast food. And you know, HIV is real. They got a whole lot of other alphabets now.
Very well said. Very well said, Robbie. Thank you for joining us again. If you don't know, Robbie is an amazing artist. Um, I just got in tune with his music and I'm in love with what he's doing, the messages that he's providing. So if you guys do have a chance, go ahead and give his music a listen. If you have any chance, bro, you can go ahead and put some of that music in the chat or let everybody know what you're doing. It's definitely worth the listen, you guys. So I would definitely do that. Anybody else want to actually no, just give their point of view based off of the topic because it's really important. All right, there's just generally, right? So anybody else want to give their point
Yeah,
of view?
we got Keith. I believe that's. Sorry if I
Okay.
messed the name
Salute
up,
to you, kids.
but Keith is in the chat. So some people is in the chat. Speaking. Saying that they wanna speak.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
So I think that would be a dope thing. If anybody want to speak, go into the chat, just so we can have everybody in like a little order, so everybody get a chance to speak their piece respectfully.
All right. So I want to talk about sex and religion. I do think that I think everything has duality to it, and I also feel like there's good and there's bad. I think that sometimes when we talk about sex, well, at least growing up anyway, it is a very taboo topic. But I do think a lot of times, I think religion actually does something that I think a lot of us can probably attest to. Is I think it kind of makes us very lustful as well, right? Because I think in churches and places like that, I think sex is put on like this high like pedestal. It's like high, but it's also like taboo and it's also hidden, right? So it has like this weird attraction to sex. Like it's supposed to be this good thing, but we also have like this negative secrecy about the things that we desire when it comes to sex. And I think that religion has played a big part in that, but I think it's being introduced to religion too early. And I think a lot of times, if you're a child, for example, and you're introduced to religion, and they tell you what not to do, and it's like sex and all this other stuff, I think it kind of builds this like negative understanding of sex, opposed to understanding how sex is actually supposed to be utilized and the fluidity of sex. I think in religion, when I was introduced to sex, it had this like almost like stay away from this idea of sex, right? And I think being able to see it from a different perspective, I consider seeing it from the angle of God. I do feel like it is supposed to be the cherry on top. I do think like we're very lustful and we're not so consumed with the understanding and the need for sex in a healthy manner. One of my favorite quotes that I created myself is like, "You'll find love once lust is no longer the currency." And I feel like once you kind of, if you are able to kind of become or understand your sexuality or your sexual nature, I think you're able to kind of, I guess, elevate to a different understanding, right? So now you don't just want to have promiscuity. That's not really what you're looking for. You're not looking to be liberated by having a numerous number of partners, but your liberation is in understanding that you do have power within your sex. And I think that that is also a form of liberation that we don't actually talk about a lot when it pertains to sex, because it almost sounds taboo for you to actually equate power and something positive to being, sexual, right? So and I think before you even have sex, I think you're supposed to have an understanding of yourself. I think you're supposed to have an understanding of the nature of God and the understanding of God. And I think religion has a good way of doing that, but that only comes after you go seeking it, right? Because if you don't go seeking the understanding of God or the understanding of sex, you will fall into like a more carnal version of it, trying to understand it from your carnal mind. But I'll land my plane there.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting. And you're right. You have to love yourself before you give yourself to someone. You're supposed to love yourself. How are you supposed to even give yourself to someone and trust somebody else with your body and your soul if you can't even do that for yourself, if you can't trust yourself. But thank you for that. And the next person that wants to speak is Jasmine. Go ahead if you like to go ahead and speak your thoughts now.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say I love all the different perspectives that I've heard thus far. As far as sex and religion, I pretty much resonate with what I heard in the piece that literally everyone is here because of sex, but it's so taboo and viewed and frowned upon that it a lot of times it has a lot of negative feedback, and especially for women. Um, I am a sex and intimacy coach, so I deal with making sex, intimacy, to talk about it, communicating your needs less nerve wracking. And I could say I definitely get a lot of shade with my profession and what I do. And I am also polyamorous, so I'm speaking from a perspective of having more than one partner, and both partners were male, and it was like something that I enjoyed about each person. They each had their own dynamic, and the connection was more than just sex. But for women, when they have more than one partner, it's automatically assumed that she is promiscuous or for the streets. That's one of the terms that I hear a lot. But in reality, like, sex is a beautiful expression when done with the right person and with the right intentions. And as Keith said, you have to love yourself and pour into yourself and understand who you are as a person without that sexual sorry, getting a little tongue tied because I'm
You're
kind of
okay.
nervous.
No, thank
You're
So
okay.
you.
good.
Take
Take
your
your
time.
time.
Take your
Take your
time.
time.
And
Take your
thank you
time.
for coming in.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, so just understanding that, and for me, I was exposed to sex at a very young age, and my parents did not educate me about sex properly, because had they educated me properly, I would have been able to voice that I was being molested and touched in an improper way. But because sex is so taboo in our communities and with religion, not exposing your children to the truth about sex and sexual touches and what everything is, a lot of the time, especially in the Black communities, our children are like hurt by that. So I feel as though if it's communicated about more openly, the good and the bad, that there would be less sexual trauma. I can be transparent and say, because of my sexual trauma at a young age, like I think someone spoke about, I was promiscuous as a teenager. I was addicted to porn by the age of 10. And yeah, so my relationship with sex for a long time was just out of the feeling. There was no emotion. I didn't have sex for pleasure. I had sex out of trauma. So if we can have more open discussions and not be so closed minded, I think we could save a lot of innocent lives to where they can understand sex and process it in a healthy way.
I love
You are
that.
so right. I love that too. And thank you again, expressing yourself. And again, just to let everybody know that everyone that's new in this room, this is a safe place and you could go ahead and express yourself. We are all grown adults. We could go ahead and talk about this because, like she says, if we make it more open, more aware, where it's not just, oh, they have a sex education class in school, in junior high and high school, and that's it. And then they learn from their friends or porn or whatever out there. But we need to let them
Right.
know really aware about things because it's not really taboo, even though till this day it is certain, like she said, her profession is considered kind of, they look at her down, and that's not right. Again, it is something that's very enjoyable with the right person because It's so different between having sex and making love to fucking, when you make it love, you really express yourself, you really open yourself to that person. So it is not a sin. I mean, they consider it, but it shouldn't be against the religion where this is supposed to be bad. Again, you do it and you enjoy it. You express yourself, you love yourself, and you love that person. You express yourself to them. And
Right.
thank you for that, Jasmine.
And I love that. Thanks, Professor. If you mind if I make a comment,
Go ahead.
all right. So no, and I appreciate. I want to tell you, I do appreciate her saying that because that's what I'm talking about. A lot of times they don't educate young kids. They don't educate young adults in the ways that they should, and this leave them open. This leave them wide open to be harmed. And so, like, I really appreciate that her adding that in there because, like, this is becoming a huge problem in our communities and stuff like that. The way they look at it, and instead of educating the kids about their bodies and educating them what it means to make love and to have sex with the right partner and to what does that mean for them, right? And exploring in ways that is healthy. So it's just like I really appreciate Professor you having this space and all the shares I've been hearing because I'll just say even for me as a therapist and I talk to so many people about this topic and religion has really suppress people in a lot of different ways when it's not even really the religion, it's the people, right? It's the people that have these, I would say, doctrines and they use it in a way that's detrimental to the people that's out there. And like the conversations I have with like different ones, it is really crazy because the conversations I have, the parents should have had it with them. And these are people like in their 20s and 30s, and some people in their 40s and even 50s. They're like, I went through so much stuff because my parents did not really school me on this topic. And I had to pretty much fall my way through life learning about this from experience. And that is so detrimental. We have so many people all over the world that end up with so many different things and going through so many different things because of the lack of education and understanding of sex and religion. So yeah, I really appreciate this topic. It's dear to my heart and I'm constantly working with people in this area because it is becoming a detriment and we need to educate for real, and stop playing out here. So yeah, I like this room. Thank you.
Thank you, honey. Yes, and we want to again, we try to have this room just to again make it aware because it's something that we really don't talk about a lot, and this helps us express ourselves. And maybe again, maybe it'll help us to maybe open up to our children or to our grandchildren, whoever. We just need to go ahead and make it more aware because again, it's nothing wrong with it. We can enjoy it, and we shouldn't suppress on what religion tells us. Unfortunately, yes, it was supposed to back then, but it always been where when you make it something where it's supposed to be bad, people are gonna be more curious about trying it. So if it was more open, then maybe, it would be more, it wouldn't be as many like teen pregnancies or maybe single parents. So with that said, yeah, I really do like it. I like you guys coming in. Make sure you guys share the room.
Sorry, yes, to interrupt. One more. Another person wanted to speak.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna
what's next?
touch on like how sex can manifest itself in different ways. The mental health behind it isn't talked about enough either because people associate sex and arousal with literally anything these days. They have some, like, they call them kinks, they call them whatever they call them, but it is a mental attachment to something that manifests in a sexual way. So if this issue doesn't isn't addressed in a way that, I'm sorry,
You okay?
It's okay.
I was writing some notes down. I read
Oh,
my notes, but I forgot where I was gonna go with that. But yeah, so it manifests in different ways pretty much with everybody. This is the leading cause of crime. It can be associated with disease. Literally everything that decreases our lifespan and life expectancy is attached to sex. And that is what people are counting on, that we don't learn, that we don't educate ourselves about, because this is how they're controlling us, through using sex, using our uneducatedness against us. Because if we were to come together like we are now and really break down and apply these things that we're learning, they would not be able to control us. And this is, you can see the changes already happening around the world. People are fighting back. There's It's on the news, there's war coming. And this is the reason for it, because we're in these rooms having these conversations and waking people up about it. So you guys are angels for coming in here and really sharing and helping us get into a deeper connection with this.
thank you. Thank you so much. Ty, you ready for the next clip? Trigger?
Hey, can I say something before you go to the next clip?
Mo.
Sure, of course.
All right. Okay, so the dude in the clip, the scriptures that he's talking about are really the scriptures that provide women protection from the things that the lady that spoke about her polyamorous relationship went through as a child. See, what white people do is they make you think the Bible is robbing you of everything that's good. But really, all those scriptures are outlawing people doing things that happen to you. So, really, it was putting the constraints on the men as to how they could use and abuse you sexually, from the father to the children to the father, mother, aunts, and uncles, and cousins. All these laws are to protect you from the sexual immoralities that you suffer because we live in a sexually liberated society with no sexual constraints. Because all of the women seem to think that the constraints of the Bible keep them from being free to do whatever they want to do with their body. But if you abide in the rules, then the men have to abide in the rules. See? And the thing about it is, it's not God's fault that men decide to do the opposite of what he said is right. So I don't think religion is the problem. I think people who refuse to honor and obey what is right and good toward one another are the problem. I'm finished.
What are they obeying?
Did you
What are
did
they
you did
obeying?
you did you not just hear what I said about how
Yeah, I pondered on what you just said. I really pondered on it, and a lot of it made sense. But my question comes from what are they obeying? Because, and when I say that, I mean to say it like this. Um, right now in 2023, there are some, I don't know what you call that, the Generation Z, but them children are born, right? So in my world right now, I'm the teacher, they're the student, right? So whatever I put on, those children have to grow with, they have to learn from. So right now, if I write a book and I tell them before the next world war, before everything vanishes, before it starts over again, I'm going to give them some literature that they got to abide by. If I know that this happens over and over again and again, I could put whatever I want in that book. They're going to follow it. So I'm saying, again, to you, my initial question is, what are you abiding by just by going by a book or going by a certain law of principle? that was set by human beings. When the word actually says everything is corrupted once man touch it, tell you if man gives you a book of literature, it's probably wrong because
Okay,
it's
okay, so
oh,
okay,
I'm about to wrap it up. I'm about to put the wheels on the ground. It's foreshadowed by rumor. It's foreshadowed by innuendo. It's foreshadowed by stories and shit like that are a stretch and everything because the character I created is being tainted. So once one man tell one man this, once it gets by the 30th man, the story is stretched. So what makes you think that the literature is the word? What gives you a guarantee?
well, if the Bible says that if a man lays with a child, he is to be stoned. That's the death sentence.
We know that by our heart. We know that by our
I
heart.
understand.
We don't need a
I
book to
understand.
tell us that.
But you asked me a
You gotta let it
question.
land his plane.
But you asked me a question though. So allow me to answer it. So if we actually abided by the actual law in the physical form, when somebody molested your daughter, you beat them to a fucking pulp,
That's a fact. That sounds true.
So,
Yeah, I'm
right?
with you on
But
that.
in our society, nobody gets beaten to a fucking pulp.
mhm,
They protect the abusers
mhm.
by not saying anything and letting that child deal with that their whole life with no justice, no
You know what?
recompense.
You right in that sense because then that gets
Wow.
passed down. That gets passed.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. You right
And
on
we
that.
also have to understand that a lot of people. Go
Right.
ahead, six. My bad. Sorry
Well,
about that.
Mo was
I
supposed to
just wanted to
go.
say something real quick.
Mo was
I think
next.
those.
Mo, were you gonna say something, Mo?
Yep.
Go ahead, Mo.
No,
This this
I apologize for asking that gentleman that, but he gave me a great point, like immediately, and he combated what I was saying. Like that shit made sense. Exactly what he just said. Like, uh,
Okay, but
All right,
Mo
go
has
ahead,
to
Mo.
go.
um what the fuck? This actually goes all the way back to what Honey was saying, but I um I also had to teach myself about intercourse, and I learned that it kind of relies on what y'all talking about now. It was a generational thing. My mom wasn't taught properly. My grandmother wasn't taught properly. My great grandmother wasn't taught properly, which is why, you know, my great grandmother had her first child at 15, and then my grandmother had my mom at 16, and then my mom had me at 20. And I think that one thing that definitely it is for the black community, it goes all the way back to slavery because we were being taken advantage of, and then we didn't get that help that we needed. All they did was say, hey, you're free, go be whatever you want to be, but then they still held us back any way that they could. And so while they were dealing with that, they still had what was going on in the household, which some young man said, they let the child deal with it and it's generational. And I think that if we actually took the time to have these heart to heart conversations with our parents, with our grandparents, like, hey, I feel like this should have happened, that should have happened, and just to make them aware of it, that it would be a lot better. But what I see now, like with the more resources that we are having, more and more of these younger generations are having these conversations. They're holding their parents, their fathers, their mothers, their fathers, their aunts, uncles accountable. And like with the story with the young woman, her husband was abusing the children in her daycare, and she went to jail for killing the husband or shooting the husband, when in reality she reported the husband after she found out and nothing was done. So
Mm.
I think if we took more time to say, hey mom, you know, I was hurt and you didn't hear me with my cries, like no child is gonna make up sexual abuse. They don't even know what sex is. They don't
Right.
know what a penis is. They don't know what that brown thing is. And I think a lot of times, like we said, "Oh, girl, you lying, you lying." Now that child's not gonna be comfortable coming to you about anything, and then when you get older, you say, "Why didn't you say anything?" You be like, "I did," and you did nothing. You didn't believe me, or you married this man and he continued to do it until I turned 15, 16, and you wonder why I went crazy, cut all my hair off, like, and did stuff like that. So
Right.
I learned. I learned actually when I first started working on myself at 18, 19, that yes, is their fault, but it's not their fault because they don't know any better, but they also know it was wrong. So I land there.
That sounds like desensitized behavior, like what you were just saying. Like when the uncle do something, oh girl, the uncle touch on everybody. Girl, quit tripping. He ain't touch you like that. Girl, stop playing, man. Or boy, stop playing. He touch on everybody.
Right.
That's desensitization, like to where they think it, they make it in a sense, in a breakdown.
To teach about sex, but you want us to teach about gay sex and tell these children, you may have been born a girl, but now you could be a boy. And now you may have been born a boy, but you can be a girl and you could be a cat and all of that stuff. So that's what came to
Hmm.
my mind when
Hey,
I.
hey, Mo, that makes so much sense. Mo, man, that's so powerful because trying to push Christian values, I ain't gonna say Christian, but just that type of shit, Christian values on somebody is considered like domestic terrorism, right? But if somebody says they want to go into school and they pushing Satanism because that's what they believe in, they saying that's okay, don't bother them. It's almost the same type of shit. Like, don't let this go through, but let that go through. The same type of shit. Like, the- um, I look at it like this, man. If you can, I feel like you don't need a book, you don't need any teachers, any false doctrines, none of that. What works? What works is me and her can keep the world progressing because me and her can make another him or her, flat out. But if their way, and I hate to, you see, how I'm trying to say this the safe way, but their way,
What's the safe way? It's life. Go
but
ahead.
their way, it is on our people. It ends because I, if we
Hmm.
have him and him, then there's no predecessor to it. So
You
I
can't
think you don't need a
procreate.
book to
Right.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. So
I'm
I
glad
don't know.
I'm glad you said that, Mo, and I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to actually just bring something to you guys' attention because um there's something I want to read to you guys. It seems that a lot of cultural shifts have taken place, like within the church or within just our society as a norm. And in this article it says here, it seems that it seems like they seem like strange bedfellows, but sex is at the core of religious teachings, with sexual activity outside of the conventional marriage forbidden by traditional faiths, but with recent cultural shifts have become in the altitudes of behaviors of many believers. The loosening of restrictions on sexual activity and at a greater acceptance of a variety of sexual expressions means church and publishers must respond. One of the most divisive changes for Christianity in particular has been the acceptance of same sex relationships. The battle over this issue has sent the landmark cases to the U.S. Supreme Court, including one legalizing same sex marriages in 2015. According, obviously, we know Obama put that in place. The decision was welcomed by some religious groups and decreed by others. Just as a release survey conducted by the Public Religion Research Institute shows, a majority of Americans across ethnic and racial groups now support same sex marriage. And that support also ranges across faiths. Simply put, clear majorities of nearly all major faith groups are in favor. The exception are white evangelistics and Mormons. Young adults ages between 18 and 29 are overwhelmingly in favor of marriage equality. And for, the 77%, the 17% are actually against it, which, comes into statistic wise. And it also says here that even white evangelistics in that age group supported 53%, while only 25 of the white evangelistics over 60 do. Conservative religious groups are fighting hard to preserve traditional sexual mores and also have chosen to evolve alongside the shifting perspective on sex. Books from religious publishers reflect that tension. So it just is giving insight on how things are changing now. um we're creating our own paths, as I said prior, right? So we're not just relying on just the doctrine, we're also going within to create the outcomes we choose to desire. So whether that is a sexual outlook, whether that is something else within, our own right, our own will, we're also choosing to co-create our own existence, which is truly our right here on planet Earth. So if you decide you want to, rename yourself as a fish, and you want to identify as a fish, or now you want to identify as, anything else, that's just your choice. And when it comes down to it, now we have the capacity mentally to to look over what has been told to us. And a lot of people within these religious groups or faiths are actually understanding that, and they are branching off to create other subgroups within that culture substructure. You know what I mean? So, or spiritual substructure, right? So it really is just a matter of like how we think things should go. If I meet a person today, which I know a lot of people, and they will say things like, okay, I'm a Christian, but I am gay. You know what I mean? And to me personally, I'm a conscious individual, so I subscribe to a lot of different things. But when it comes down to it, it eludes me a lot of the time. I even see people doing things like they say they're Christian, they subscribe to believing in Jesus Christ, but they also they do tarot, or they subscribe to astrology, or they subscribe to occult information. And for me, I understand the idea of knowing I'm a conscious person, so I can subscribe to all religion, all spiritual practices, because they all belong to me, because all of it is mine, right? So I can claim anything I want to, right? But when it comes down to it, it really is all a contradiction. You know what I mean? If you're gay, how are you also in the church choir? You
You're
know what I
so
mean?
right. You're
You get
so
what I
right.
mean?
Hey, and I feel like you
I just
feel,
think people.
like I don't pick anything. I just look at everything and I take the good out of everything, and I think that's what makes up me, because I can't go just serve something because it becomes a like a cult type following, and it's just like, well, hell, man, if we're gonna do different things, then because I think just the root of it was for us to do what the creator wanted us to do. Once we start remixing it and start doing our own shit with it, we end up with bad results. This plug goes into this hole and it gives it power. But if you take two plugs and put them together, you might get shocked. So if you don't do it his way, he's not saying that he's gonna punish you or something bad gonna happen to you. He's just saying, hey, it could possibly go wrong. I made it for it to go this way. So if you want to do it your way, that's fine. I think that's what free will is. That's fine. If you want to put this same part with that same part, go ahead, go right along. And then when you end up with your arm on your head, or a child is growing up like that,
Right.
you know what I'm
Nah,
saying? I
that's
think that
facts.
I'm just saying that's the way he did it. He just saying do it this way, and this is how it
Right.
works. Bam, him and her try to follow some values. Baby comes out, teach him a little bit, raise him a little bit. They gonna fight, they gonna argue, they gonna cuss. That's where that free will comes at, to where they're doing some shit they ain't got no business doing, but they learn right from wrong on their own. And I've even told my parents that, man, you can't tell a kid how to be because you got 50 and you figured it out. They have to be 20. They have to be
Right.
27. They have to be 17,
That's
19.
right.
Gotta let them go through it. And they're going to figure it out if it's in their heart. But if it's in his heart to be a bank robber, I don't care what you do, he going to be a bank robber. He just got to go through that
All
shit.
right.
You know
That's a
what
A
I want to
lot
be a
fact.
of
bank robber.
a
I
lot of
would
things
love
is
to
I'm
see.
innate. I was gonna
I
say
would.
a
I
lot
would.
of. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
But if
Uh,
if you do it Satan's way, I mean, then yeah, I think that's free will. If you do it Satan's way, if you want to take these two things that don't go together, put them together, and end up in a fucked up parallel, then that's what you're gonna have to deal with. And he still give you a
What
chance to
exactly
fix it.
makes it Satan's way though, bro? What makes that Satan's way?
Okay, so what I'm
Exactly.
saying about Satan's way is this. This is what I mean. He's saying this, and I get this from like a
Cut them
mentality.
off.
I remember I was watching I watch so many videos and cartoons, and I can see behind them subconsciously, right? To where they're black and white and they make sense, and then somebody comes in and spill paint everywhere on Nickelodeon, and they're saying if it's colorful, it make more sense if we just put this color with that color. But when it was black and white, it was blatant. It didn't make sense. Basically, what they saying is God's way was born. But when we do this with that and match this with that, and when a man can go with 6 women and just it can just be one man, it's much more better. And it's just like I just think the regular basic way was working. There was nothing wrong with it. It's almost like if you watch ants build their territory. It works out better with a chain of command than it does when you go off doing your own shit. That's what I'm kind of like saying. Like when you go doing your own shit, it doesn't work all right. When you go going against the way that because you have a way that was set for you here. Do it like this. This works. You and her raise him, and then he raise him and her, and then they both have their own him and hers. Bam, that's it. Don't adjust it. When people start trying to adjust it, they fucked it up.
Right.
That's
Okay.
Satan's way, my nigga. When they start trying to do
Understandable.
different shit.
I was
Understandable.
Because
just
it's a
wondering.
Understandable.
natural, it's a natural occurrence. If you put a man and a woman in the same room and give nothing, they're gonna naturally gravitate towards each other, and bam, you got a
Exactly.
child.
That's what I'm saying,
Of
bro.
course.
Exactly.
I was sitting here
That part.
contemplating.
Go,
Go ahead,
I
six. Go
was
ahead,
go
six.
ahead, six.
I was contemplating, given the topic, how a preacher, pastor, whatever you want to call him, would navigate on a sermon involving the scripture, "Men shall not lie with men." I would love to hear their justification, or do they just skip that part?
You know what's
What's the
funny in
justification for?
today's world? Yeah, I mean, well, this is what he's saying, right? So in today's world here, like I said, and even here listed right now, if I even go back, right, it says conversion, spiritual, and sexual, right? On the conservative end of the spectrum, some evangelical Christian publishers have made gay conversations a narrative and a staple. They have books now, which are new books. The authors connect homosexuality to childhood deprivation, abuse, and rejection. Right? A lot of artists write that growing up without a father was a source of confusion about their gender identity and a reason that they embraced the gay culture, which is their perspective. Um, Again, it seems as
They
though
did.
people, have their own perspective on how things come about. It's not just about what's so called natural. Now, clearly, I love women. It has nothing to do with that. But from a perspective of having an open mind, I can understand why people that are unlike me have their own realm of dimension that they live within. And it doesn't have anything to do with me. I may not subscribe to it. And of course, we can do the agree to disagree, but it's really about opening your mind to understand that what's natural to you may not feel natural to someone else. And it's not to do the I was born this way thing or I was always like this thing. I don't really subscribe to that or believe that either. I do feel like things are learned or are impressioned upon whoever from whatever
So you
age,
feel like they
right?
born with that?
You know what I mean?
Is that like
I feel like there is no such thing as good or bad.
no, I
I feel
get
like
you on
there's no
that,
Okay.
but
such
do
thing.
you feel like your brain because I feel like this, bro. If you born in a bubble and you was born naturally without a hospital, without them putting shit in you, without no medicine, without
Hmm.
no fucking IVs, if you was born in a bubble without eating that shit that's in the air or none of this fake food, none of this
That's fucked
GMO
up.
shit, you would be a fucking great baby who has sense. So I'm
Hmm.
saying, do you feel like
You would just
that?
naturally you would just subscribe to
It could be
dog
with
turd.
your mom. Yeah, okay. Yeah, then
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I get you. I get you,
The
bro. You make a
genetic
lot of sense to me.
components drive you to be what you are.
Yeah, I agree.
Biologically,
Yeah.
if you're in the womb, right, there's a like what you're saying, there's a lot of dynamics to that. There's the environment, there's the food intake, there's the stress levels of the mother, there's so many things, hormones, chemicals, all types of things that affect that baby biologically that can actually change the chemicals in the brain that can gear you towards being more so of a woman or a man. And if you're a man, if you don't have the right balance, you can end up gearing towards a woman type of mentality, right? So then there's the genetic components, right? Your genetic components is what gear you towards your I would say your sexual reproduction part, that's the genetics, right? There's no scientifically proven DNA that says that you are going to be gay or you are or no you're going to be gay or you're going to be a lesbian or whatever. There's no components. I've researched this, and this is just me, right? Because I'm nerdy. I've researched this back and forth trying to find a genetic component and read like peer review articles and all that stuff. There's no DNA strand that says that a person is going to be gay or bisexual or anything. There's only the biological effects of when the mother is carrying the child that affects all of those chemicals in the brain and can remap your brain to feel and think different ways. Then there's also the other part, and I'm gonna land my plane here. There's the socialization, right? People don't understand that is a huge part. How you are imprinted on as a child and how you are raised and what environments you are raised, which can produce traumatic experience and all types of stuff, can affect how your brain continuously operates over the course of time. And so that's why you see a lot of people geared towards, okay, I'm a female or I'm a man, because there's so many components that people are really not looking at. There's the biological and there's the socialization of a woman, a boy or a girl that people really need to take into consideration. Then, like I said, there's the trauma, right? Those experiences really impacts the brain. And this is something I've been really studying because I really want to understand what is going on in a lot of people's minds, especially people that are transgender. I've watched so many documentaries on all of those communities, the LGBTQ plus community, and what that looks like. A lot of that is rooted in sexual abuse, right? Now, a lot of them don't want to say that, but it's data on this, and it's surveys on this that most people that you talk to that is in this community have been, and I'll just give just 60%. I'll just say that 60% of a lot of them has been sexually assaulted, sexually abused, and I'll even throw in this. A lot of them has been traumatized by their upbringing. And so sometimes that can trigger things in your brain to make you feel a certain way. And now you're saying, oh, I'm this. But guess what? When you rewind it and go back to the point before all of this, you was not that way. So it's just like a lot of people don't want to admit that because they want to give some reasoning why they're like that. And it's better to say, I was born this way than to really explain and break down why they became the way they became. So I've done a lot of study and I'm talking to people on this. And this is the consensus I came to as far as what's going on in this community. So it's a lot going on, and we need to be merciful, open minded, and understanding, and just really talk to people and see what's going on. So that's just what I
Right.
wanted to add to it.
Right.
I wanna say one thing real quick. All right. If someone can simply control that sexual whatever urge they have, if that's so simple for them just to do, because they're not, you saying they're not admitting what the real thing is. It's not really that they are are programmed a certain way or nothing like that. You're saying it's based on X, Y, and Z, and that's why they're like that.
Sometimes.
But if we could say that with people who chooses to live that life and get and go through all the stuff they have to go through to live and be free in that life, then how come people who are straight, we can't change certain things about us as simple as our attitudes or how we talk with each other or how we communicate with each other? Simple things like that.
That's not simple.
But
You know,
because
the
we can't
the
understand that.
human brain is not simple, right? We want to say it's simple, but a lot of people go through a lot of different things that make them the way they are,
So
right?
yeah, exactly. People are born. I believe people, and
That's
I
what I'm
do believe
saying,
your surroundings
right?
kind of shape you as well. I
That's
do
what I
believe that.
said. Yep, I
I
said that.
believe that. I
Hey,
do believe
honey,
that.
I think
I
it's
do
like
believe that.
I'm
So
But
sorry.
I also
socialization,
believe.
that's what I
I
mean about
also
social.
believe. I
I think it's
also
repressed
believe
desires, honey. I think
you are
it is
born a
sometimes.
certain way as well, though. You have a
My bad.
makeup,
I'm gonna let
yo.
her go.
So
Nah, nah. I'm about to let it real quick. I believe you are still born with a certain It's something. People is different.
Nah, no,
Manny.
People,
no, I don't
it's a
think
lot of
no human
similar.
being is
No,
born with no evil, bro.
No, listen to what I'm saying. Hold on. Cause I said it, right?
I'm trying to think broad. I'm trying to think more broad than just that subject. I'm just talking about just person. I'm talking
Right.
personality. I'm talking about just different things. I think people are just born. They're not all born
So
this.
that's what born means biological. When the mother is carrying the baby in the womb, the baby is being affected by what is going on around in the environment, what the mother is eating. That's when you say born like
There
that,
you
it
go.
means
Yep.
biological. When they're carrying the child is being affected by everything. So what happens in the brain, it changes the chemicals in the brain. And a lot of times the brain is remapped to feel and think opposite of what their genetics, which is their DNA, says they are, right? So that's when you say born, that's what I was explaining. So I'm in agreement with you and I'm just complimenting what you are saying.
Right.
Hey, honey,
Go
hurt
ahead.
people, and
Yeah.
I think that's that type of shit. Hurt people. You know, and I am not trying to go to that, but they say Robert Kelly was messing with the mama before he was messing with our Aaliyah.
Mhm.
Hurt people because it's somebody else who taught that shit to them, and they learned that shit and they carried that shit,
Yeah,
and
but
that's why I
there's
said that's
people.
why I was talking about that
People.
Satan like type of mentality, and I don't mean to call it nothing bad because people don't look
Nah,
at
but
nothing like that.
there's
But
people who's been molested that haven't molested people.
exactly,
That's
that's what I'm
I
saying.
know,
basically
I
That's
know
what I was saying. We all
yeah.
saying
I
the
know
same
That's
men. I
basically
thing.
know
what
men
she's
who's molested.
saying.
I
That's what
know.
I said,
I
Manny.
know my homeboy from a long
Manny.
time. He been molested when he was a kid,
Manny.
bro. And
Did you hear
he's not.
me?
You know what I'm saying?
Nah, he
Yeah,
right
I'm
what
just
he
saying.
said like that. Yeah, he's saying the
I'm
same
just
We
thing.
saying.
saying the
You know what I
same
mean?
Yeah,
thing.
it's
No, no,
Well,
people.
let me
I know,
say
because I know what
let
you.
me
I heard
say
what you
this,
said
right?
exactly. You said
And I
60%.
want to
So you didn't say all,
I
but you
just
said
threw out a
60%
number
of
based
people
in
they
well
grew
let
research
up
me
and
and,
surveys
and,
and
and,
observation.
And let me say this, right? Because I want six and I also want unconditional self-love path to go as well, right? I know you want to say something unconditional. So I definitely agree with everything that's being said, right? And that's basically what I was getting at. I just wanted us to, just give some type of information based on the contrary, because a lot of people do feel like they are born this way, but on the contrary, there is no scientific fact for you to be born anyway besides the way you are born. Now, spiritually and on a cult level, they will say things on a rare scale where people can be born um in the wrong body. They say it's rare. They say it's
and
things that don't
mentally,
happen. Yeah, they say that it's a rare thing. It's not something that you would see on a real consistent basis where people are just born in the wrong body. This is something where I feel like personally people are equating their sexual desires, whether it's be deeply rooted in trauma, deeply rooted in just or sexual desire per se, or prowess, or just whatever's intriguing them
or
sexually.
surroundings, or
They're
surroundings.
deeply,
I
yeah,
believe
or
surroundings.
surroundings, yes, or
I
surroundings,
believe
yes, right. Whatever they're seeing, whatever they're consuming, because you can be consumed, or you can consume something that can alternately change your point of view, right,
That's what I was
mentally.
saying.
Or
So
That's
what
if you
your
can,
mother ate, like
biological.
Honey
or
said, what your mother ate.
That's
If your
biological.
mother ate what an abuser,
yeah,
if your mother
but it's
ate what an
not.
abuser ate, she probably thinks like him. If that food was contaminated, and that's probably why they sprinkle shit in airplanes over all the crops all the time to have us
Mhm,
thinking the same way. That's why I
mhm.
said if you was born in a
Yeah,
bubble,
chemically
I
imbalanced.
see what
Yes,
you're
yes,
talking
you
about,
can be
though.
chemically, yes, you can be chemically imbalanced as
I see what
well.
you're talking
But what I'm saying is the mindset that comes down to it, which is why I agree with what Honey was saying, and even you, V Tweezy and Manny, I agree 100%. But when it comes down to the mindset itself, it really is just relied on choice, and it's just basically relied on what actually a person desires. It can
that's
be
a fact.
various
Yeah, I
reasons. It
agree
can
with
be
that.
it can be various reasons why. It's not about
about.
natural. It's
That's
not
real.
about right or wrong. It's about what that person desires,
That's real.
and it's just time for us to not demonize things anymore. We can't demonize people's points of view, how they live, what they want to do. That's their choice, based off of spirituality or not. It's a lot of different things that actually would allow a person to do that spiritually, like depending on what you subscribe to. It's other faiths and other spiritual paths that actually accept people to have sexual expression and sexual freedom. it's not always deemed bad to be outside of so-called the norms. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should do that. I'm a heterosexual man, but when it comes down to it, this is where people are in society now, which is why even these people in these constructs of religion, like Christianity per se, they are venturing out to create their own paths, to do things that they deem is right. Even the pastors, even the, people within the congregation per se. They are
Yeah,
all
they
venturing out to
favorite
do their
singers.
thing. Your
Beyonce
favorite,
and Jay Z
you
and
get
them
me?
done been out to my man Island and shit. Everybody been out to that island. They put the list out of people. He was just flying out in his jet. I said, "Wow, man, this is crazy, man. That man was doing
Mhm.
all that. And everybody was going out. That shit crazy, man. You never know, man. You never know."
Yeah, and I want to just basically welcome everybody else that's been new to the room, and I also want to give a chance for Six and Unconditional to please speak your
There you
yeah.
go. You right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was.
And ladies first, please, Unconditional. Could you please speak your piece, baby?
Hi,
Yes, yes.
good evening, everyone. Gratitude to the room. I really enjoy the topic. I think it's really interesting how you guys put together sex and religion. Going back into, there's a few points I wanted to say back, but I allow people to speak. For me, it's like doesn't matter. Um, Going back to the information and the clip that you played with Sadhguru, there was a few diamonds that he dropped in there, including the one that Hani said, and one of the ones there was two that really stood up to me. He said, how can most of us claim to say that we love our creator if we don't love the creation, which is us? We are the creation. And if you really, if you choose to, you know, at least believe some of the truth that and the information that is given in the Bible, we're made in the image of the divine, and that's when the part of getting to accept ourselves, our urges, whether it's sexual or in whichever way it is, accept yourself just the way you are. Another thing that he also said is also that we are conditioned and we are programmed, artificially conditioned, believe that we come from sin. And think about it, if you're talking about the levels of consciousness, you have to overcome sin, you have to overcome shame, you have to overcome those frequencies, fears, and all those frequencies in order for understand to get to the point that you're at peace with yourself, you find enlightenment and you find everything, which was very interesting. I myself, I'm a mother of two beautiful daughters. I come from domestic violence. I was sexually abused. And in my family, it was a taboo to talk about it. But I literally confessed it to my dad like last month in January, February. I confessed to my dad, things that even his own brother did to me and things that happened to me in childhood. And what I've noticed, it's you guys were talking about it, is it turns into ancestral lineage that we don't talk about and our ancestors have done it or hid it, then my daughters ended up getting sexually abused. And my youngest daughter said it to me when I was at my lowest, and I think those are one of the few things that trigger my spiritual awakening. But it also opened me up to see that, you know what, I have two daughters and I'm not going to treat my daughters like they're dumb or they're stupid. I started talking to them about sex. After I found out they have been sexually abused, I talked to them about their period. When my daughter was 17 and she was sexually active, I took her to the doctor. I didn't trip on her. I didn't get all crazy. I told her, you know what? I really appreciate it. You men up and you came to me because they both men up to me and talked to me about the sexual abuse. And I took her to the doctor and now she's 19. She's safe. She's doing sex, but at least she's doing it safe. And my youngest daughter just turned 16 and we have a very beautiful communication. Because one of the things they really called me out on, and I really appreciated that we are there as parents physically, but that doesn't mean that sometimes we open up emotionally. And that's when the desensitization, which we don't express to our kids, that we're there physically, monetarily, emotionally, and in every single way. You want to switch and you want to change your reality when it comes to kids, communicate to them. And when they come to you, whatever they're throwing at you, don't react from a trauma response. Take a deep breath and be the parent that you wish you had, because that's how I chose to come to my kids. So, beautiful room.
a lot of beautiful things, a lot of things that Honey said make like a lot of sense. Throughout my journey, I met friends in Pentecostal church that when I was 13, 14, they're like, I'm gay and I don't know how to deal with it. And I'm in a church and we used to talk about Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. And he's telling me I like guys. And I didn't judge him. Then I had another friend at the age of 15. He also confessed to me he was gay and I didn't judge him. And now I have a beautiful relationship with a beautiful transgender person. And he's expressing to me how she had all these sexual urges and now he's finally doing it as a transgender and how happy he is. And he was like, I know for you, sex is sacred. I know you see sex in a different way. And I was like, I'm not judging you. I'm nobody to judge you. If you're happy with what you're doing, that's your journey. That's one of the biggest things we need to do, kind of like what brother said. We don't have to demonize other people's choices because we all have free will. If somebody wishes to be a stripper, I'll be like, girl, let's go. I'll support you and shit. I'll hold your hand. I still love you for who you are. So beautiful room, beautiful topics, a few things. That's why I dropped. But with that, I yield the mic.
You know, I
Shout
had a
out,
quick comment if you don't mind.
shout out to
Yes,
Christian.
but thank you, and welcome to the
Yes,
room. And go
yeah,
ahead,
welcome to
honey.
the room.
I
Yeah, make
appreciate
sure.
your.
I
Who
want
is
to say,
that?
I
Who
got
is
you,
that?
honey.
Who
I
is
want, I
that?
want to say to everybody that's new in the room, I don't think we did a
She just
reset.
did.
Let everybody know to hit that green mention up top. Definitely hit that green mention. Follow the club. This is one of many shows. We have different type of shows. And even the sex ed. Well, they have another. They have a joint called Open Mouth. It's a different type of show as well. Late night. Yeah. Let them know, y'all. I'm a little tired, y'all. So
Oh no, no
let's.
worries, no worries. Just make sure you thank you, Manny, so much. That's my brother Manny there. And I just want to let you guys know you are in the sex ed zone with myself and my partner, Professor Jazz. My brothers here, every moderator here, we are a tightly knit family and we provide lots of content within this app. We are also working on things that are going to go cross platforms, right? So it's definitely something you guys want to tune into and make sure you guys are in tune with us because we are consistently putting out content for everybody to digest, right? It's a great place for you guys to be and navigate to. I just want to welcome everybody to the zone. Vanessa, Angelina, Unconditional, thank you so much for your insight. It was really great. And thank you, Bennett, as well. You were really great as well. If you have anything else you want to add to the conversation, please do so. We also have more things we want to bring to you guys just to get your wheels turning, just to have you guys thinking in the realm of thinking that we guys are on tonight. And I appreciate you guys for being here once again. We could be anywhere else, but you're here with us, and that means the world to us, right? So, anybody else that's in the group, please come up. If you do want to speak, if you do want to be on stage, this is your chance, right? You don't have to be in the basement. You can stay up here with us. You can be up here with us, right? You know, I do want to give the floor to Mo because she wanted to say something, and I do not want her to go unheard. And once again, thank you, Unconditional, because I was really grateful, and I'm grateful for what your insight was. It was really nice to hear from you.
Okay, is it okay if I give her a quick
Of
response?
course you
Because
can. Of
she
course you
Yes,
did.
can.
go ahead,
Okay.
beautiful.
Okay, so thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks for acknowledging me. Because I've been working with people for a very long time, in this area, and one of the things that I always tell people is that just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean you can't love them and respect them, right? I don't have to, and I know I catch a lot of slack for this, but I don't have to agree with everything that you do or say to love you and to support you. And I think that like if we learn to just let people be who they are and just do that, I think the world will be a better place. So I just want to commend you for what you said because I just think that it is so important for people to express themselves and learn. Life is about an experience, right? And on this journey, we all have different things that we're going to need to experience in order to become who we are. And so, if we're not allowed to experience our lives according to what our makeup is, then we'll never learn who we are. And so, it's going to be very frustrating throughout life to deal with that. So, all I'm saying is, like, I like to support people and really just understand. like where they coming from. And so this space has been really great. I'm a little kind of a little zesty and excited because I'm passionate about this. And I know a lot of people struggle in this area and they're so divided within themselves because they don't have the support. So I just want to thank you and commend you and thanks for appreciating me.
You're very
And,
welcome.
Hey,
and
if
all
it's
y'all,
possible, I
y'all
can
Go ahead,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
six. Yeah, go
No.
ahead, six.
I just wanted to reference something you said earlier, or what I believe you said, that it's far and few in between, for the most part, I'm paraphrasing, but people can be born in the wrong body. That I adamantly do not accept. And the reason being is because, especially when we look at the topic through religiosity and sex, if you can say that that's the case, then ultimately, aren't you stating that the Most High made a mistake? The
Well,
only
let
way
me
a person can,
respond. Well,
I,
oh, go ahead,
go ahead.
brother. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. My
I,
bad.
I,
I, I believe the only time an individual's genetic makeup, as we acknowledge as sexuality, is a question mark. It's between 8 and 12 weeks at birth, when we are all male and female, born female. Then we transition to
Hmm.
a different chromosome from being female to male. So ultimately, I believe that's the only time that a male's perspective, from a male's perspective, our sexuality can be in question. The only way that I can, the only way that I could physically determine if an individual is born in a wrong body is if you X-ray a male's genetics and you find ovaries. You do
Hmm.
have what's called you do have what's called a hermaphrodite, one who was born with both genitalia. However, however, their sex can be determined by the prominence of which
That's true.
genitalia it is.
Right.
If the vaginal area is more prominent, then it's a female. If the penis is more prominent, then it's determined to be a male. However, I can't see where it can be justified as through a natural progression that a
Well, let
person
me
can be
say.
born in the wrong body.
and can
Well,
can
let
I
me.
say can I
Well,
say this? Oh,
before you respond, brother, let me just
oh,
respond to six. Right. I just want to say this. Right. When I say that, I am basing that off of incarnation cycles, soul contracts, things like that. Right. We're talking about past lives and things that have to do with us being here beyond gender and sex. Right. So this is where I speak on it being a rarity, right? It's not something that you're going to see consistently, but there are studies on things like this on a spiritual sense, not just because of what happens in the womb as we are being incubated to come into earth, right? So it's other realms of thought and studies that actually, you know, speak on things like this. You get what I'm saying? Even people who are, you know, how children are born and they have all of this relevance or remembrance of their past life, right? Some of them were different genders prior, and they have all of this information on how they were different genders prior to coming into the life they are now, and the shit's accurate. You know what I mean?
that's a
So
fact.
it's it's a real thing that could be
How
up
will
for
we
debate.
determine it's accurate? How can we determine it's accurate if
Let
you're
me
comparing one's life today to a past life? Where will we get the evidence that their interpretation of who they were before is accurate?
Where do you
This
get
is
the
how,
evidence that it's
because the
not?
people, yeah, yes, because the people come into this life and have all of the information of that past life, the name, how they died, what they did, where they lived, the type of person they was, and it all turns out to be accurate. That's
Some
how,
memory of the
because the
death.
information
They
is
could
there.
say somebody.
Correct.
They could say somebody died in that fire, and they keep talking about it. And they have studies
That
where
could
they
be
say
clairvoyance of the past, the present, and the future.
Correct.
They can
Correct.
actually see the past, right? So it don't necessarily mean that they were that person. They could have just be seeing the past of someone's life that is feels or it could feel like it was them, but it's actually a vision
Uh-huh.
of the past. So there's clairvoyance in all different types of ways
Well,
that people can do that.
clairvoyance is not necessarily about past lives. Clairvoyance is
No, but
actually, you get what I mean? Clairvoyance is not based off of that. I can have
what
clairvoyance
I'm
right
saying
now.
is they
You know
can
what I mean?
see a past life and pretty much be accurate about it. Is what I'm saying.
hey honey,
Got you.
I
Got
seen
you.
I seen something
Got
to
you.
where I kind of believe in both, so I stopped picking like one, and I started doing both of them to target to what Honey was just saying, to where some of them. All right, put it like this, like with the Creator, right? There's a reason why the devil is not killed. If a lot of people ask if he doing this much bad and he's this horrible, why didn't you just lock him away for 1,000 years? You got the power to just do all of this. Why didn't you do it? And that's speaking to someone who knows that whatever he does is really not that bad. That's why people get the saying that they say that comes from slaves, that saying whatever you're going through, it ain't nothing that the Lord can't bear. That you
Well,
can't, he don't put nothing on you that you can't handle. And I think what they mean by that is because even in situations like that, I think some people get to do it over again. When we talk about that reincarnation aspect, they keep trying again. He don't kill the devil because he's trying to see what you're gonna do. You're gonna choose this way or that way, and you still get another chance. Because guess what? Even people talk about the devil, even the same person asking that question, why haven't you killed the devil? He causes all this turmoil, kids going through all this shit. Woo, woo, woo. You've done the same turmoil. Why he ain't got rid of you?
well, life is about, it has to be a balance of good and evil, right? Because or positive or negative or bad or good, so to speak. Because like when it comes to learning about things, I think that there's a certain level of negative things that is healthy for people to go through in order to understand or appreciate the good stuff, right? Because a lot of people take a lot of things for granted, and this is just my observation and logic. When I observe people and I look at their lives and stuff like that, a lot of people take a lot of things for granted when it's going just so perfect and well in their opinion. And so I think negative or good or bad is there to help them understand that you need to appreciate, right? That when things are going good. So it
That's a fact.
doesn't so it doesn't mean that because like all this reincarnation stuff, I don't know, right? Because there's like somebody said in the comments, multiple people remembering being Marilyn Monroe or Princess Diana, and this is a fact, right? Because I watch this, I watch people do this, and this is why I said clairvoyance. There's a lot of people out there that has been able to tap in a high percentage of their brain in order to see someone's past life and to really bring light to how they died, right? And so when I watched this little boy sit there and say on this on the news said that he was this
A
man,
documentary. Yep.
yeah, the documentary,
I
what I
seen that
took
shit.
from that is that the man that died um pretty much he tapped into that to really tell the story of how this man died. This is how a lot of stories are being told, because I think there's just something in the universe that is saying that all these people that have died in these different ways that we don't know about, these stories need to be told. So we are kind of like blessed with the ability and the gift to kind of like pull back the memories or go back in time mentally and pull these memories up. And this is just me logically thinking and observing through this. And so I'll say this. I'll give this example. I've had memories that of things that I've never done before. I know for a fact because when I pull outside of myself and I'm like thinking like, no, I've never experienced this. This is me now. But that memory is of someone in the past, and I'm just like, okay, well, this must have happened to someone and the story needs to be told. And probably when we have those thoughts, we should probably write it down and tell the story, because a lot of times people are dying from different things and their story is never told. So I just think that little boy that had that premonition from the past was just to bring to the forefront of how this man passed away, because people didn't know that story. And this army guy was a well-known soldier. I
Yeah, I
think
saw
that
that.
they was trying to
That's
figure out what happened to him. And this little boy was just like, that was me. But I just think that was just a way of, I would say, God giving him that to tell that story of that man that passed away. So like
I
we got
wouldn't.
to be
I
very
wouldn't.
careful.
Yeah, but I
We got to
wouldn't.
be very careful with that though. Like for
Yes,
real,
but
for
I.
real.
But I no. Listen, baby.
powerful
The
conversation,
person.
man.
The person. You listen. It's
Just
no.
something, a touchy
These
situation. I don't know, because I'm like, we talking about sex and religion, and this is just kind
No,
of
no,
like a
clairvoyant.
I
really,
just went there
yeah.
because I'm
Listen.
just like,
Yes,
I,
clairvoyance is a real thing. reincarnation is a real thing. Now, if you subscribe to it or not, that may be your
I,
choice.
Oh, I'm not
But
knocking anybody.
generally
Can I
speaking,
can I give y'all
hey, hey, hey,
an
can
experience I
can
had?
I land that
oh,
plane
Um,
definitely,
Be
before
like
her plane,
definitely,
bro?
definitely, definitely, definitely.
I
Superhead.
had
Do you think she got it in reverse?
come on,
You
man.
think she doing it backwards?
Ooh.
You think she was doing it backwards?
Well, she might have
Like
been.
she got
When it come to like
she don't ever
other
mention her
other
baby dad and shit
Hold
like
on a
that.
sec. Your
come on,
mic is
dog.
She
open.
got
You
her
don't, excuse me, sir. Thank you.
Damn.
No, he didn't know
I've
sex. He
had
didn't know.
experience. I know. I've had experiences where I could honestly say that that soldier could have been that little boy. And my reason for saying it is
You
because
just don't want to
I've
speak
had
because it's something you.
I've had downloads of my past life. And I mean this was at an early age. I couldn't have been no more than 2 years old. I had a dream and it was crystal clear and it had to be during the 1600s or something. I was a player. I'm not gonna hold y'all. You know when they had the men would wear the suits with the frilly sleeves and all of that shit. So I had that on, and the reason why I know it was me, I'll tell you in the end. And I was standing there talking to these women, and for some reason, I don't know why, I could have been a jealous boyfriend or husband. This guy busts through the crowd, and he shoots me in my stomach. When I felt the shot, it hurt, and it woke me up. And when I woke up, I could still feel the pain. I never had that dream ever again, but I can recall it as if I just had it 3 seconds ago. That was me. I honestly tell you, because if it wasn't me, I don't think I would have felt the pain from that dragoon when he shot me in my stomach. Everything went black and I woke up. I honestly believe that that was me. So a person can, in my opinion, have downloads of their past life, but the only differential thing that I would look at is I've never heard an individual have a download from their past life and they were the opposite gender.
But you can have a download from a past life, right? Or a present person, right? I've actually, okay, so I'm gonna say this. I don't really let too many people touch me, right? One of the things is there's a lot of times where it could be a transfer of energy. Like someone could be feeling really sick or feeling really down, and I've had this happen to me. They've hugged me and they no longer feel sick or feel down, and I'm feeling sick and feeling down. This have happened multiple times. So you can actually have that feeling of like it's yours, like of being shot or somebody being shot, and feel that like it's you and it's not you. And so that's why I kind of came up to the present.
That was me, baby. I
I
was 2 years old in the bed sleep. Ain't nobody touched me or nothing. And that dream came out of nowhere as if it was giving me the last signature experience of my past life.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, what if, and I'm just asking you a question, right? I'm not just crediting what you're saying. What I'm saying is like, could it be that you have experienced somebody else being shot and felt that? That is possible. You see what I'm saying? Because
I understand what you're saying. It's a transferal,
right.
and I'm aware of those incidents. But if that's the case, then that's what it is. I stand accused. But
Oh, I ain't not
from
cute.
the depths of my soul. No, I'm not saying you accuse me of anything. If But I'm saying if what you're telling me is the
Hmm.
correct aspect, then I stand accused of being wrong in my own perception. But I honestly feel that that was me. I
Gotcha.
honestly feel that that was me.
Well said. No, I was just wondering. That's it. But I'm just, I'm just kind of speaking from like just a general consensus, and just wondering like maybe could it have been you feeling somebody else, because I've known like and I just really don't say all of this, but like I feel people a lot and I just don't say nothing. And you got to be very careful, because you could be thinking you feeling some like it's you, but it's somebody else. And that's super prevalent, really, amongst a lot of us, and we just don't speak on it. Just for instance, like in this room I could feel different types of energies, and I just don't say nothing. I know who's probably mad, upset, all types of stuff, but a lot of people scary because a lot of people don't want to speak on that because it's something that it's so hard to fathom, right? You can really feel someone's pain if you really tap in, if you're super empathetic to a certain degree, and you not only can tap into the people that's in your vicinity, you can tap into people's energy in the world from the past, the present, and the future, if that makes sense, right?
It
But that's
makes sense,
scary
but
that a lot of people don't want to talk about.
I'm gonna tell you this,
Yeah.
and you're absolutely right because, and I mean this in all honesty. Ever since I was like 18, 19 years old, I guess it was something that came after time. But I promise you, whenever someone in my family die, I can feel it. I can feel it instant their spirit leave their body, and I've been feeling it for years when it happened.
So you see what I'm saying though? Like, do you see what I'm saying? My mom, for example, someone was shot, like, and it's to compliment your story. Someone was shot. She was in the kitchen doing cooking dinner, and all of a sudden she felt this feeling, and she felt like she was gonna die. And she laid down, and she was just trying to figure out what it was or whatever. And as she was laying there, she told me the story. She kind of like, it was almost like when she closed her eyes, she saw herself getting shot, but it was somebody else. So I'm just like, it's so many different dynamics to this, and I'm just, just picking your brain and seeing what you're about. But this is about sex and religion, and I don't want to take away from that. Yeah, follow the Korean House at the top. This is Ed 101, sex and religion. Yeah. So I'm gonna land my plane right there. Have at it.
Peace and blessings to the room. How y'all doing?
Hey,
All
AK.
right, how you doing?
AK, AK.
Yeah.
Peace, love, and light. How you doing, AK?
I'm okay. I see
I
y'all.
would like to welcome everyone that's new there. Thank you for everybody coming. Go ahead, AK.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I see y'all in an in-depth conversation. I like it.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It's about sex and religion tonight on Sex Ed 101. But yes, I just want to go ahead and welcome everybody that's new. Make sure you guys follow the house. Make sure you guys follow myself, Professor Jazz, and my partner and my other moderators there. Tune in because we always have different rooms, different topics. We not only have Sex Ed 101, but we also have after hours every other day. Every couple days we have good topics. So yes, make sure you guys share your thoughts about tonight.
Thank you
Good
so
evening.
much, Jazz. Yeah, go ahead.
You're
I'm sorry
welcome.
about that.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to welcome everybody once again. I also had another thing I wanted to share with you guys. At six, did you have something to say before I do that?
No, I can wait till you finish. I know that thing is irritating, but I can't help it. I can wait till you finish, Rudy.
No, you're fine. It's no problem, bro. It's no problem whatsoever. I want to actually invite everyone that's at the bottom of the stage. Please come up and talk with us. Please come up and deal with us. We're having a great dialogue. If you would like to speak in peace, please come up. We would love to hear from you. Okay. Anybody that actually also wants to invite a friend, please invite a friend. Um, please let everyone know that we are here, that you think may be interested in this topic. Share the room, please. And of course, follow the house and follow all of us here on stage. Let's network, let's build with one another, right? It's very important. It's very crucial that we do so. But I do want to play one more thing for you, Trigger. I don't know if you have that ready for me, bro. Can you please play that for me, bro?
There has been the passing on of a secret. And so there's a certain anticipation about this very private communication. Because you would think if you are being initiated into a religion, what the secret consists of is some marvelous information about the nature of God or the fundamental reason for being and so on. But not so in this case. The initiatory secret talk was a serious lecture on the evils of masturbation. What these evils were not clearly specified. And so, but it was vaguely hinted
that ghastly diseases would result. And so we used to, in a perverse way, enjoy tormenting ourselves with imaginations as to what kind of terrible venereal diseases, epilepsy, tuberculosis, and the great Siberian itch would result from this practice. Now, the extraordinary thing about it is this, that the very chaplain who gave these lectures had in his own upbringing been given the same lecture by other chaplains, and this went back some distance in history, I imagine. And they all knew perfectly well that one of the characteristic behavior patterns of adolescence is ritual defiance of authority. But you have to make some protest against authority, and in this you are in league with all your contemporaries, your peer group. And nobody, of course, would dream of giving anybody else away, because that would be to be a tattletale, a skunk, definitely not one of the boys. And so, therefore, quite obviously, masturbation provided the ideal outlet for this ritual defiance, because it was fun, it was also an assertion of masculinity, and it was very, very wicked. So I meditated on this some time as to why the system continued. And I came to the realization that the Christian put down of sex is an extremely mysterious thing. In the religious background of the Western world, we have in the main two traditions, one Semitic and one Greek. So far as the Semitic tradition is concerned, the material world and sexuality are definitely good things. Both Jews and Muslims think that God's creation of beautiful women was a grand idea. In the Arabic book, which is their Islamic version of the Kama Sutra, known as the Perfumed Garden, the book opens with a prayer to Allah, which is a thanksgiving, a very full, detailed thanksgiving for the loveliness of women, with which Allah has blessed mankind. And in the book of Proverbs, we are enjoined to enjoy our wives while they are young. But on the whole, it is the Semitic belief that sexuality is justified solely for purposes of reproduction of the species. This makes it good in the eyes of God, and sexual energy should not really be wasted for other purposes. That's the limitation put on it. Now, on the other hand, we have a Greek tradition, which is peculiar in that it is strongly influenced by a dualistic view of the universe, in which material existence is conceived as a trap, as a fall into turgid, clogging matter, which is antagonistic to the lightness and freedom of the spirit. And therefore, for certain kinds of Greek religion, among which we must name the Orphic mysteries, the Neoplatonic point of view, and the later Gnostic points of view, being saved means being delivered from material existence into a purely spiritual state. From this point of view, sexual involvement is the very archetype of material involvement. Mater, mother, matter, matter are really the same word. And so the love of woman is the great snare. This is incidentally a doctrine invented by men. And it goes back to the words of Adam, "The woman that thou gavest me, she tempted me, and I did eat." Now, in the development of Christian theology, from approximately the time of St. Paul through the beginning of the Renaissance, it was universally held that sex was a bad thing. You should read St. Augustine on this. He said that in the Garden of Eden before the fall, reproduction took place in just the same way and with just the same lack of excitement as one excretes or passes water, and there was no shameful excitation of the sexual parts. And the whole attitude of the Church Fathers in those centuries was that the virgin state was immensely superior spiritually to the married state, and that sexual relationships were excusable only within the bonds of marriage and for the sole purposes of reproduction. And the manuals, the moral penitentiaries of the theologians of the Middle Ages list all sorts of penances that must be said even by married couples who performed sexual intercourse on the night before attending Mass, were still before receiving Holy Communion, and of course it must utterly be avoided on certain great church festivals. So although in theory marriage is a sacrament which somehow blesses this peculiar relationship, there is a definite attitude that it is after all dirty and not very nice. Now you must realize too that in those days the institution of marriage was not what it is today. Marriage at the time of the rise and development of Christianity was a social institution for alliances between families. You did not marry the person of your own choice except under the most peculiar circumstances. You married the girl your family picked out for you, and they thought it over carefully from its political point of view as well as from the point of view of eugenics, and whether this was a good healthy girl and whether this was a good healthy man, and they had an economic bargaining about it, and you married this girl. You weren't necessarily in love with her. And it was perfectly well understood in the secular world that on the side you had other arrangements. You had, if you could afford them, concubines, or even second and third and fourth wives. And these subsidiary wives were, there was a somewhat more choice open to you in getting those than in the first one. First one is definitely a family arrangement. Now that's the context of it, don't forget that. So what the church was saying was only that woman should be your bedfellow whose marriage has been arranged by paternal authority. The idea of romantic love does not arise in connection with marriage until the troubadour cults of southern France, of Provence, in the late Middle Ages, when there begins to be this idea of the idealization of a woman as the inspiring goddess almost of the knight errant. Dante's Beatrice is the inspiring woman who leads him to heaven. Now historians are not agreed as to whether the lady loves of the chivalrous knights were in fact their mistresses, or whether they were simply idealized women. But the influence of the cult of romantic love on the West was profound. And it brought about a weird combination of ideas. One, the notion of the married state being the only licit relationship in which sexual play might be carried on. And two, the notion that the girl you marry should be the one you've fallen in love with. Two more ill-adjusted ideas could hardly be put together.
Perfect, bro. Perfect. Yeah. I want to just ask everybody what they think about what he said and how he said what he said when it came down to just sex in a whole and even sexual expression as far as even like masturbation or things like that.
Shit. Y'all know my history, and I ain't gonna hold y'all. I used to beat my dick like it stole something. I ain't gonna hold. it,
I
it's
feel
funny
you.
to
I
the
feel you.
motherfucker, but it's the truth. Shit, I used to beat my shit so much I was shooting blanks because my libido was like crazy, crazy. But
Right, right,
you
right.
know, when it come to our treatment of women and how we feel as though at any impasse they're supposed to yield to us to accommodate our sexual favors. I think we're looking at them in a lesser capacity than they deserve. And it takes us as men, you know, first we start off as boys, young men, whatever, but it takes an evolutionary change mentally for a man to get to a certain place where he can recognize her as being a prize as opposed to a piece of paper or a rubber doll or something. So when it comes to those arranged marriages, I think that was something that we were speaking on earlier, how these marriages, even though they were young, they were done for a specific purpose and design. Ultimately, we won't go for that today because everybody want to choose their own mate. But at that time, you know, people were getting married. Literally, they were getting married younger in their teens. Their parents had more so of a say so, characteristically, health wise, and what the purpose for bringing these two together. There was a greater agenda to where even the woman was more so respected then in that capacity than they are today. And I land there.
Very well put, Six. Very well put. Very well put. Welcome everybody at the bottom. If you guys want to come up, please come up. Please come up. Please come up. Jazz, what were you going to say, Jazz?
No, I just wanted to agree with Six there, back at the back then, you got to marry at a younger age, and like I say, it was more like what they set up the days and everything. There's still some religious nowadays that they still practice that. um I've been doing a lot of learning about the gypsy culture, where they still at a young age they try to get their daughters to be married, set them up. Like, you cannot even kiss a guy until you actually marry them. um they had them going as young as 13, 14, already learning how to be a housewife, how to go ahead and how to take care of their husband, and bear children, take care of them, and just everything what they're supposed to do as a wife, and they learn that at a very young age. And there's a lot of cultures like that they still practice that because it brings more structure and how to raise their young daughters, to be women and to be what they're supposed to be, a wife, and take care of their husband and their family. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I definitely understand what you're talking. Yeah, definitely. I feel like when it comes down to it, we all have experienced that guilt, even for like self expression of sex, not just with the opposite sex, depending on, spiritually where we grew from. So we all have this guilt, like, oh man, maybe I'm not supposed to do that. Or, man, I feel bad for people that were in arranged marriages because if they desire to do something outside of that, you know, arranged thing, they probably felt bad, felt trapped. You know what I mean? Felt like they couldn't express themselves sexually or just free, like freely with their own within their own being, within their own name. So I really feel bad for people in those predicaments who can't, step outside of their own mind. And it's a thing where sometimes people, especially our relatives who bring us up in a certain realm of thinking, once we veer from that, we are demonized or do something on the contrary based off of, a religious point of view, we're demonized, especially
And
sexually.
mhm. And when we consider those practices, and then we contrast that to westernized society standards, they didn't have arranged marriages as far as the European goes, as far as we know. Um, that I think that was something that had become outdated in the late 17th, 18th century as far as their custom go. But they did still put pressure on the women to the extent that if she wasn't married by the time she was 20 or 21, she would be considered an old maid. So what they were doing was is they were playing on her ego and her self-worth, trying to push her into a relationship to submit to someone that she might not necessarily want to submit to, but she want to get rid of that stigma or that pressure of being looked upon as someone who's unworthy or not befitting of a wife, a stereotype forcing her to potentially go into a marriage that's no good for her.
Right, right, right. Where do you think that really comes from, bro? Like, where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from choice selection initiated by men to where they would decide that they're going to pick the woman who's much more adept or handier in and about the house, who know how to do something and contribute in a laborious fashion. And when these women started being picked, it caused the other women to look upon it as being a potential competition and not wanting to be the last one scooped up to be found worthy. So the women who were married would look down on the unwedded women and say, "You're an old maid. By the time I was 19, I was married," and things of that nature, making her feel less than and causing it to become a competition, thus forcing marriages again that were unwarranted or not beneficial on her behalf because she felt pressured into it.
Right, right. Wow, that's so interesting.
Can you ask that question again for me, please?
Which one
The last
particularly?
one that you said. You said something about why do you think that is? Why do you?
Oh, yeah, because we went into a different various ranges of topics as far as we're just thinking where the guilt that comes from being sexually free. Like, if you remember from the clip we played earlier, Alan Watts was talking about masturbation, sexual freedom, um, and really the acts of knowing your individuality amongst oneself when it comes to sex. And he gives just insight on his point of view on how it's just very detailed. So I was asking Six, like, why does he think those arranged marriages happen the way they happen? And why do you think, a lot of women feel the way they feel when they are pressured to do things like that? Even, prior to that, he was talking about how just growing into a mature state, we understand that women are more than just sexual objects. You know what I mean? They are more than that. And as a man, I can say there was a point in time where I may not have been as mature enough to handle a woman as if I am now, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So why do you feel that women are in the position, or even if it's in the past sense of where it's arranged marriages or, you know, um, being forced into servitude, like now it's another realm of that. Now you have women who really don't feel like they're worthy of anything else but that. And the reality in some aspects, yes, you're here to serve. Yes, you have to follow roles, things of that nature, right? But you are more than that as well. You have other aspects to your life that are untapped and you don't even know, right? So why do
Right.
you feel like women are in the state right now? You know what I mean? Where they feel like they have to do the things that they do in order to be liberated. You know, the sexual expression is really how do I say it's just it's overdone. Everything is about sex now because we've been so pressured into not doing stuff for so long and kind of weighed down to now everything we do is about sexual expression.
'Cause
Mm-hmm.
it's just like when you cage an animal, right? And they're not free and they're stuck and they don't have any choices or what they can do and what they can't do. As soon as you let them out, they go crazy. That's the same thing with I would say women being suppressed over decades, and now they have been let out, and now they like, oh, I can do whatever I want. But the really what they haven't realized, the liberation comes in is knowing when you can do something and you choose not to. You choose to protect yourself, right? Because there's so many things that comes with just going wild and just over sexualizing yourself to the point that you hurt yourself. So like I think that women have gotten away from understand what true liberation is. The liberation is in the mind. It's not just being able to have sex, is being able to have power over your sex and who you choose to give it to. That's liberation in my point of view. And as far as like the arranged marriages, right? This is a cultural thing, sometimes a religious thing, in a lot of different countries, even sometimes over here that we don't in the United States that we don't even speak on. Right. There's so many cultures over here in the United States where, women are married off for dowries and all sorts of reasons. So it's like it's a cultural thing, and the one thing I could think of, hell, that song, "It's a Man's World." I'm sorry, it's a man, it's a
Let's
man's
go.
world, right? So we, I'm sorry, I'm really goofy, but I'm trying to be serious. Um, it's a man's world in a sense of like the structure that's put in place, right? Is based on a man's ideology and wanted to be, I would say, to a certain degree in control, have a certain level of control over women. It's something about men feeling like it's something about men being able to dominate you. It's arousing to them, right? And I don't know if a lot of men want to agree with this, but it's just something about a man being able to prey on a woman and not necessarily in an abusive way or any type of derogatory way. It's just like I feel like it's an instinctual thing, a primal instinct for the most part where they feel so empowered to be able to tie you down, rope you up, and take you upside down. But anyways, that's just my thoughts about it. But back to on a serious note, it is definitely a cultural thing that we have like just gotten into power dynamic struggle, all that type of stuff. So I think that's why women are forced in positions that they really don't want to be in. And like Six was saying, having that stigma on you that you're not married. There's all types of dynamics, shaming women for being a certain age and not being married in these cultures. And that's why a lot of the parents and mothers push it because they don't want to be deemed as socially unacceptable or inadequate as a family, right? So when these families come together and they with marriage, it's a lot of to do with financial stuff, social stuff, just so many different things, and women just really suffer because of that. So that's just my tidbit on that, and I'll let my play right there.
Well, thank you,
Yeah, I'm
honey.
just a
And no, that was great. That thank you. So I would like to say welcome everybody that came in that was new for tonight. Thank you for coming in and supporting Sex Ed 101. Tonight is Sex and Religion. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Who would like to share something?
Yeah, good evening. I came in when you were sharing about your studies about how in other in gypsy communities how they teach their children and all of that. And I thought it was really interesting how your beloved brought it into the awareness of how I think that one of the things we really are lacking, and I'm so grateful actually about this room because this is one of the rooms in Clubhouse that you guys are sharing wisdom. You guys are giving people the opportunity to communicate. and it's not over sexualized. Like everybody's respectful, everybody's respecting each other's truth and whatever. And I realized that my truth, I realized that in order for us to be able to eventually create a, if you choose to, because everybody has free will, to have a happy family now, with having so many different points of views out there in the world, with polyamorous, polygamy, and all of that, which I respect. um I believe that in order for you to be able to please another individual, one of the things that I think we should also learn to do is not to be ashamed of pleasing ourselves. I'm a high believer that, like, masturbate, please yourself, know your body. So that way, when you have a beloved, you'll be able to either teach him, and I hope, the man doesn't get offended. Because imagine a female teaching a guy, like, this is how I like it. This is how and I'm not saying that the guy doesn't have the intuition inside of him, but I think it's so beautiful for a female and a masculine and a beloved to communicate and express and be open to explore each other's body. Because I myself, that was one of the things that even, spirit through my healing journey asked me to do. Like, okay, you want to be able to find somebody that is worthy of finally not coming from a trauma response, but actually not trauma bonding, and you're not settling for this relationship. Know your body. And I think it's very beautiful to explore your body, please yourself, and eventually find somebody that will be open minded, that you're not ashamed of communicating and sharing all of that. And the same thing with our kids. Like, I was reading in the comments as I came in and I came out, that it says that I didn't have sex education in high school. And I don't think anybody should have sex education from school. I think that sex education should be given from your parents. We need to stop putting that as a taboo. Talk to your kids, because your kids are more smarter than we actually give them credit for. Our kids are
Exactly.
so much wiser. I was the kind of mom that since 3, 4 years old, I used to be telling my kids, this is the period and blood comes out through here. And I didn't like my period before, but now I know how sacred it is. My daughter, that's a Scorpio, taught me a lot about that, even though she's younger than me. And I realized that sometimes we have to learn to humble ourselves to say, like, I don't know everything. And I think our kids come as teachers, and I think it's beautiful to be able to break all of those things about not having to settle to stay in a relationship for kids, but to also to be able to know, like, you know what, I deserve better. And explore your body, know your worth, and know that sex is a beautiful thing, especially comes
Exactly.
from a sacred place. And with that,
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Like she says, you had to love yourself, love your body so you can enjoy it, with a partner that will enjoy you. That's why we're trying to do this, again, um, sex ed class is different. We're trying to educate people because the taboo is that we're supposed to hide this. We're not supposed to be really speaking about it. But how we're supposed to learn about this if we don't teach each other? Well, we might not know, somebody else might know. And like they said, when they kept it so close, excuse me, so closed in like that, it makes people be more curious about trying to open it up and see what's going on in there. So I would like to say thank you for everyone that came in tonight. Make sure you guys follow the house so you guys can tune in for the next sex ed class. Not only do we have sex ed at night, but we also have after hours. After hours is different from sex ed. After hours is more open mouth, open mind, talking about sex topics, very raunchy. We're very open and blunt about everything from, fucking giving the best blowjob to your partner to having just what's your favorite position to any sex stories that you want to talk about. So follow the house, follow the moderators. I would like to welcome each and every one of you guys that came in tonight, all the new people that came in. I really do appreciate it. But also follow the house because we have so many other rooms, not just about sex, but we have Tap in the Zone, Lunch Break. We have Fuck It Up Friday that we had earlier. We have in the morning, just in a few hours, lunch with the brunch with the ladies. Okay, tune in for that as well. So, like I said, just follow the house. I appreciate for everyone coming. I am Professor Jazz and my partner Ty Khalif there, aka Dr. Scorpio. Everyone have a good night or good morning.
Buenas noches.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Buenas noches.
That sounds like desensitized behavior, like what you were just saying. Like when the uncle do something. Oh, girl, the uncle touch on everybody. Girl, quit tripping. He ain't touch you like that. Girl, stop playing, man. Or boy, stop playing. He touch on everybody.
Right.
That's desensitization, like to where they think it. They make it in a sense, in a breakdown, desensitizing like it's normal. Like, oh man, they do it to everybody. You better toughen up. And I think that's what we do as black people. We try to make it like it's some tough skin type shit. Man, better kick the motherfuckers in their face, tell them to get the fuck up off you. Nigga, they try that shit with everybody. They try that shit with me when I was a kid. It's like a it's I don't know how to say that shit, but it's like a thing that we all have to where it's like it's been done to everybody. You better just fight back, and it's just that, you know.
If
All
I
right.
may, if I
Six.
may,
Go ahead. It's your turn. It's your turn, Six.
thank you. I wanted to bring it back to the topic because I'm in agreement with everything that I just heard, and it's prevalent in our communities. But when we bring it back to the topics and we keep it real, it's running rampant in churches. You have a lot of maladjustation. The men up in the choir shaking their head like Tweety birds. The preachers, especially the Roman Catholic Church, they have a rich history of it. The Romans have a rich history of being sexual perverts and maladjusted people since the beginning of their histories. So a lot of these behaviors are they're fed in churches and so-called institutions of religiosity. So it's not just that it's something that's going on in homes outside the church. It's something that's going on in the church because I've heard stories of little kids telling their parents that the pastor or somebody touched them and they overlook it. You know, and that's in a church setting. In a home setting, my sister went through it. And my mother was so hung on that piece of shit. She overlooked it and told my sister she was lying. And their relationship was never the same. My sister was about 10, 11 when she told her. And because my mother refused it, the older my sister got, the more bitter their relationship came. So I think a lot of maladjusttions and perversions have been enacted upon us through slavery and our grandparents, great grandparents. They had that slave man mentality. So a lot of things was hushed up. You're not going to talk about this as taboo, and don't you dare say nothing to that extent. But on the flip side, in our culture, as people who come from, some come from Africa, some are indigenous to this country. But when we look at our heritage before we became westernized, girls was getting married at 13, 14, 15 years old. And that was for the strengthening and the enumeration of a colony. It was something that was done methodically and it was something that was done carefully, not for the abuse of our young women but for the procreation of our nation. When we come over here, a lot of our customs were eschewed and looked down upon, and it was turned into something that was villainous against our women as well as the men. So we have to realize that a lot of things we observe today as being right or wrong was indoctrination. And I land there.
But don't if you're a 15-year-old girl, I think you shouldn't be talking to nobody. 'Cause I got a daughter. I got a daughter that's 17, about to be 18 in November, right? And I think she needs to be talking to a 17-year-old man if she gonna be talking to somebody, a young man that's around her same age. But that same protocol says that, and it's projected in the music and everything modern now. that once a girl gets 16 or 17, it's the popular thing for them to talk to a guy 25, 26, 27, 30 years old. They got this thing that they like older men. They like the older men. Why do you like the older men when you are the younger girl? Because you make mistakes too. So if we're gonna talk about in the sense of not nothing sexual, okay. Well, you talk to the older man, you're gonna do a lot of dumb, stupid shit, cheating, and you're gonna live your life. So the guy who even admire, because like, bro, listen to it. I don't like younger women, right? I'm 35, shit like that. Like, I don't like somebody that's below like 30. I like somebody that's kind of like mature. I don't like younger girls. It just don't appease me. It feels like I'm doing something with somebody I ain't got no business doing with. So I like somebody that's a little bit older. I don't like nobody younger. And it's like, where does this shit come from to where the younger girl likes an older man? Now that could come from because all of the younger guys she dates is mature, but what it could be is that she likes to date all the immature guys on purpose and then say, y'all not mature. If you get a guy that's about his books and about his shit like that, that's about your same age, you might, and if you just compromise and work with him, you might have yourself a good situation. Y'all can grow together. Y'all can learn together. Because y'all both at the learning stages. But I, in a long story short, they want to be grown too fast. Do anybody understand what I'm saying?
No, I get
That
it a
No,
hundred
you're
that
percent.
right.
part.
I get it a hundred
That
Completely.
percent.
part.
But
Correct.
I just wanted to give a reset really quick. I know everybody is actually on a particular topic, but please hold your thought because it is very valuable. I just want to welcome everybody to the Sex Ed Zone. All the people who have not been here yet, I see a lot of people down at the bottom. If you do want to come up here and you want to speak your truth, you want to give some insight on the topic, please feel free to do so. Make sure you guys follow that greenhouse at the top, Hip Hop Zone. We do a lot of different content every week, every day. We're always doing something. We are a family, tight niche, and we also, provide a lot of different content for people who are coming on the app, who want a safe space, who want to have fun, who want to have free environment to just kind of enjoy yourself. That's what we do here, right? So I just want to give you a chance to actually follow all the moderators here on stage right now, and also, make sure you guys make yourself available for everything we do here because the content we provide here is like none other, and you're not going to find a house like this on the app because we are one of a kind, right? So I wanted to actually play something else for you guys, just to get some insight, just to guys, just to get your your wheels turning in your mind, right? So Trigger brother, if you could please play that next clip for me, I would really appreciate it.
This is a fantastic device to keep people enslaved forever. And to cover this, there's a whole lot of other stories which I don't want to enter. A phenomenal tools to control populations, which has been successfully done for a long time. It depends on how we shaped ourselves. If we become wonderful human beings, it's one thing. If we have become an ugly manifestation of humanity, definitely it's an original sin. It's a mistake. Sin is too strong a word, maybe it's a mistake. So too many mistakes are being made in the world, no question. You claim to appreciate or, well, you worship the one who is referred to as the creator, but you have a huge issue with the creation. If you do not appreciate the creation, why the hell should you worship the creator? Someone who made such a bad job of this, the only way you can even be born is through sin, I think he must be banished. Now, this is a fantastic device to keep people enslaved forever. If you do not even allow them to come to terms with their biology, they'll never come to terms with anything in their life. Always they will be dependent on an institution or a person or something who claims to have connections. An Italian mafia guy was once brought to the law court and he just walked in with this fat cigar in his hand and like this he came and sat down like he's a guest. Then the judge looked at his arrogance and asked, "Do you have a lawyer?" He blew the smoke out and said, "Well, I got friends in the jury." So people who are supposed to have connections elsewhere, you will always be enslaved to them because you feel guilty about your biology. This whole thing goes into more grosser and grosser states. So except in certain cultures, everywhere else where dominant religious beliefs were spread, in all those cultures, unfortunately, they make you feel guilty of your very existence, because that way you will always be enslaved to whatever they have set up. Something so fundamental as the menstrual cycles in a woman, she has to feel guilty about it and she's impure. Her existence is impure. Unfortunately, I want you and all the teachers of the world to understand, if your mother did not have menstrual cycles, you wouldn't be born, even if she met your father. Yes. So the life-making material, unused, is what it is. And if that is impure, your very birth is impure, that's what they're anyway trying to tell you, that your birth is impure. And to cover this, there's a whole lot of other stories which I don't want to enter. Once you're not in terms with your own physical existence, you're essentially will never ever be in terms with any other dimension of your life. This itself will cover you forever. This is… this is a fantastic trick to keep you enslaved forever. No wonder institutions have lasted. Though they've lost their relevance, they stay, simply because your existence, your very existence, you're guilty of. If you're guilty of your very existence, that means one or that which is the source of creation should be even more guilty. You are eternally guilty, and that which has created all this must be even more carrying the burden of guilt. Guilt and fear have been a phenomenal tools to control populations, which has been successfully done for a long time. It's time this is broken.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I wanted to, yeah, just basically get some, more clarity on just alternative points of view based off of just the religious aspect of how we live our lives, but also how we view sexuality. And he basically is just going into realms of thinking to where, some people would look at, sexual liberation as freedom, right? And it's been deemed as, evil or not, you know, more on the spectrum of good and bad. And he's actually urging every listener to look outside of that, because it also has brought us to a level of thinking to where we can be limited. It's not that we don't need balance. It's not that we shouldn't have morals. It's not that we shouldn't live in a certain spectrum of understanding what should we do and what shouldn't we do. But it's also to understand that, we should live our life with really no limits. We should, also create our own path. right? Not just based off of doctrine per se, right? And that's what he's urging every listener to do, or at least to think about, right? So does that strike anyone in a certain area to where you think that way?
um it struck me in a different way, right? I think it adds to I would say the doctrine in the sense of it's saying, because what he was saying, what really got me is that how they were, that some religions or like those doctrines will perpetuate that your reproduction system is impure, and it's actually something that you need. And the one thing that stuck out too is that he said basically if your mother met your father without her having like a cycle or whatever, you would have never been here. But sometimes in religions, the way they slice things, it makes you feel like just being a woman and producing children or having those cycles is something of impurity, but you wouldn't be here without it. So it's almost saying that it's a hypocrisy in the church. And honestly, I think from my perspective, it's almost trying to suppress people into to thinking that if you don't do what I say, you're going to hell or this and that and other. But
Bingo.
it's the Bible even talks about we need that. Like, oh, what it say? Go out and be fruitful and multiply, whatever. Now there's boundaries, right? There's structures, there's discipline and stuff in the rooms of which you do it in. So, but the main gist of what I'm saying is that the main thing that they're saying is taboo is something that we need. It don't even make sense. How are we on this face of earth if we don't have a cycle? If we don't have a menstrual whatever? You can't produce kids without that, from what scientific I would say analysis and data and research has shown us over the course of time, right? People have a very hard time when they have like different things, like cystic ovaries. I know a lot of women know about all of that. You have issues with that, and it makes it hard for you to have babies. So I'm just saying that a study making people feel like their reproduction system is impure. How about we teach women and men how to do that in the confounds of a structure that is going to be beneficial to them and not detrimental. So I think that's kind of like what he was saying, is that we got to get away from making people feel like their pure existence is a taboo. And I think it brings about self-hatred and not understanding. So that's my point of view and what I got from it.
Ultimately, I agree with what you say, honey. But ultimately, when we really examine, and I don't mean to castigate or throw stones at nobody's religious views, because if it makes you a better person, by all means, you should embrace it. But when we look at the verbiage that's given in the Bible about women from the first book to the last, they are denigrated. They're always put down in a shamed fashion. She's always lesser than, and in turn, yes, she's always looked as being something impure. But ultimately, none of us would be here, and I mean this, not just existence. Period. You know, it speaks with a forked tongue because the Bible speaks of wisdom, and wisdom went to create all things. It gave the luminaries between the water and the air. It created the earth and all things within. But then it goes on to explain that wisdom is always expressed as the feminine. So if wisdom is a woman, wisdom have to have some value. But we talk about our
Facts.
women in the Bible, but we put them down. And that's man's egotistical way of trying to be lord over her or hold
Right.
a dominant
Right.
position.
And that's
I'll
what I'm
land there.
essentially saying. That's what I'm essentially saying. Her pure existence, we are made to feel like because our bodies is sexual and we carry children, a lot of times they make it seem like it's something that's taboo. But we actually need that in order to produce life. So I'm just saying, instead of them doing that, they can teach women how to respect themselves, how to conduct themselves that's going to be beneficial for them. So, I mean, you're complimenting what I'm saying, essentially. So, yeah.
Hey, you know
Thank you.
what's connected to wisdom in that same sense of womanhood is because, and I can say this tied to the urban community nowadays in modern times, right? It's when your son goes out the door, you tell your son, don't let nobody bother you, don't let nobody get to you, be a strong man, right? every black woman, or I ain't gonna say black, I'm gonna just say, you know, every woman says it to her son, don't let nobody bother you, right? Don't have no emotions. Just stay out your feelings. That's what they say nowadays. Stay out your feelings. Stay in your bag, stay out your feelings, right? That's what they say to their son when he walk out the door. But when a man coming in the door, they say, show me some attention. You don't show no emotion, right? So I feel like that shit ties into that ties into basically like it's the same shit as far as when you, you you could tie that same type of intelligence to having feelings, because you have to have emotion to understand that, right? You have to have emotion to understand that. But we caught up in between not having emotion and being tough and shit like that. But it's actually the same shit. You cannot you got to be a balance of both. You got to have both. If you don't have both, then you lost. You can't see that same part that you need to see. You can't see it
Okay.
at all.
That's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right.
Hey Mo, did you want to say something?
Go ahead,
I
Mo.
do. The first thing that came to my mind was what's going on now with the LBQL, them people,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the sex changes that they are.
LBGTQ plus
Correct.
community.
Say that again.
LGBTQ plus community.
Correct.
Oh, I was way off.
It's
Thank you for that.
pronounced
No problem.
that's pronounced Lagubt.
I call them the ABC people, but don't pay me no mind. One thing I thought about was how they are now implementing these sex changes with make telling men they can be women and telling women they can be men by cutting off their breasts and turning their penises inside out, and about how they're telling these children if you want to be a cat you can be a cat, you know, and how they're telling people they can change, but these are children who don't even know, you know, what puberty is yet. And I especially thought about how it's going on in the church too, like how the pastors are now becoming gay or non-binary, or how the ministers are now gay or now not non-binary, and how they're even teaching about gay sex in schools, and how one teacher, and I can't think of what state, but he got fired for not talking about it when they changed it in the curriculum. So I just thought about how that dynamic has now, like, oh, you don't want us to teach about sex, but you want us to teach about